Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our regular council meeting for August 5th at 7 p.m. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If we can all please remain standing for a moment of silence for our first responders and military members, please. Thank you. May be seated. Roll call.
Roll call. Councilmember Ross.
Present.
Councilmember Obama.
Present.
Councilmember Wallace.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Samra.
Present.
Mayor Moran.
Present.
For the record, all council members and mayor are in attendance.
Next on the agenda, we have closed session announcements. We don't have any because we haven't met yet, so we're going to wait until after regular session, and then we can come back and provide some announcements. Council, are there any changes to the agenda?
Mr. Mayor, can I pull item number 17?
Pull it, or you want to ask, or you have questions?
Postpone it, I'd rather pull it because I don't like the language, how it's written.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
Checking in with City Attorney as well. Mr. Wallace, I believe that we could amend resolution on the night of, so far as we specify that language and put it into the record. I'm open to doing that tonight if you'd like.
What it's, I'm just curious, because the measure that all the citizens voted on, it's public safety, and we're just trying to say, if the way I read your proposal, is everything has to go to the fire station. Well, what if the police station blows up? It was public safety. There's a lot of things that fall under public safety. I'm thinking when they get to this item, and with the committee meeting on it, maybe 10 or 15% should be set aside maybe for other emergencies or fall under that public safety issue. I just don't think it encompasses enough of the measure that the citizens here voted on. That's just my opinion.
Mr. Wallace, if you're referring to item 17, which is the resolution related to the fire department, I don't believe there's any language in there that specifies percentages of where funds will go. I'm happy to discuss the rationale behind putting that on the agenda. If the council doesn't want to approve it, they're more than welcome to deny it, but I would ask that we leave it to discuss if you're willing to allow me to explain that a little bit more later.
All right, we'll wait till later.
Okay, Council, is there anything else? I do have some questions, but it's under consent, and then I will get to it when we come to consent agenda to approval. Is that okay? All right. Moving forward, next we have awards, presentations, and proclamations. Item number 1, presentation by Dolan Group in regards to the recreation plex.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council, thank you very much. I know Dolan, McGregor, and Kyle have been anxiously waiting to be able to make a presentation, have been working diligently with their team, and then, of course, in partnership with the city and the different departments that are involved in the Rexplex. Rexplex, just a little bit of context for folks. We, many years ago, we partnered up with Health Advocates, which is a nonprofit organization that specialized in actually putting together grants in this recreational space, specifically Prop 68. And so they did all this pro bono, and we had all the different community meetings. The first go around, unfortunately, we were a top candidate, but we were not awarded any of the funds. So we decided to apply again for the second round, and with the grace of God, we actually got the funds. We got about $7 million and some change. Within that time frame, there was negotiations that got started with the Livingston Farmers Association They had a couple of buildings down not too far from here. And so then the city, once they got the award, they negotiated with the Livingston Farmers Association, and they purchased one of the 2 buildings, and it comes with some additional property. Fast forwarding, the city hired Dolan Group, and then subsequently hired SVA, another architectural firm. They've had a number of meetings. The last presentation was done in January of this year. The mayor and council asked, and the community have asked for a presentation. There's been a lot of internal discussions, and actually there's been some discussions with the state as well, given the time frame that we have to finish off the grant and complete all of the deliverables. And so what's going to be presented tonight is the professional outlook of what can be done with the funds that we currently have and the time, and some additional grants that we're going to go after, plus using some of our Measure V funds, both the 80 and the 20% that we have available for us. So with that, I'll turn it over to Gregor.
Hopefully you guys can hear me. Or can I? There we go. That'll be better. Mayor, council members, thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to provide this update to you. So as Mr. Ramirez has said, this is really an update to let you know where we are with the project. As time has progressed forward, if you recall from our last presentation, one of the things that we were looking to do was obtain additional grant funding for the project. We have been diligently following through on that. We've been working with California Consultants, who is a grant consultant group, to help us navigate that process. We even completed and had one of our submittals completed today. So we're looking forward to the results of that. That said, the timeline on the Prop 68 project is still moving forward, and that is something that we're working towards as far as completion. And we're at a critical point in the project where we have to make decisions as far as what to do. And with that in mind, and also keeping in mind that that is the money that we have been allocated to complete the project with. What we're coming to you today with is just kind of an update in terms of the master plan for the vision for the project and what we plan to move forward with in terms of a first phase for that project. If you recall back in January, we talked about phasing this project in because there was a noted budget shortfall at that time. We are still facing that budget shortfall, and so we're trying to find creative ways to make this go forward. So what you see up on the screen right now is kind of the overall of the master plan for the Recplex. The existing Farmers Association building is kind of in that little lower left-hand corner at D and 6. It's in the white area. There's a couple, oh, thank you. The technology. So the Farmers Building, Association building that you acquired is right here. There's the asphalt area here that they're hoping to become future basketball courts, and I understand there's been discussions about potentially acquiring that site as well to expand this piece. There's also the park area right here that will become the future park, and the residence that was right there that was dilapidated has now been demolished. So they're starting to make progress on that. With this first phase, the proposal is to take the back half of the Farmers Building, which this is the high bay area, just for reference. This is the store, this is the office area right here. This is really the high bay area that has a lot of value that we're looking at, and then this is kind of the secondary storage area. What we're looking to do is take that piece of it out and then start to redevelop this piece of the site with the money that we have remaining in the Prop 68 funds. Next slide for whoever's running this. Perfect. And then as you can see, the intent here is to construct a new recreation building. We'll show you, I'll get into the detail of that with the blow-up, but to start to create what could be the master plan of the site, using some Measure V funding that has been made available, take care of the sidewalk and other improvements that are going to happen right here, as well as this side of the park. That'll allow, again, basically the little over $4 million that are left in the Prop 68 funds allow us to develop this, kind of redo this. Next slide. And we get into the blow-up of this. Thank you. To create a building that has a presence on D Street. Again, fixing this, creating parking right along here, that will start that process of potentially redeveloping that street. For the moment, everything that will be developed as part of that $4.8 million will be focused right in here, but it will essentially craft the first phases of and the essential elements of the Prop 68 requirements, which is creating this large recreation space. It's called a basketball court, but it'll truly be a multi-purpose space, something that can be used for more than just basketball, for community events, for all sorts of different things. And then again, multi-purpose studio classrooms. You know, simple lobbies will create some type of entry to the front, and then some supplemental storage and restrooms in the back. But start this process and create this, you know, kind of first step, first phase for the Prop 68 money that you have available and in hand right now, which is the critical item. As I noted, there is a critical deadline to the Prop 68 project. This portion of the project, which satisfies the grant requirements, needs to be open and operational by or on December of 2027. So that means we've got to get through design, permits, construction, and have it open with a C of O by that time frame. So that clock is still moving ahead, and you know, rather than attempt to continue to wait for grants or other money to come in, we're going to execute this first phase to get that done, and then allow for potential expansion of scope or future phase work as more grant money comes in to execute these. And that concludes my presentation. Questions?
Council, are there any questions?
Quick question. So the right side of this picture, portion of the building that has a basketball court and studio space, that alone will satisfy the Prop 68 requirements?
That it's part of the overall. If you can go back a slide, you can see in the master plan, part of that is the park space, and this will be developed as a future phase.
Okay.
That was part of our discussion with the state. Livingston is not alone in the issues that we're having with escalating costs of construction. When the prop money was granted and doled out, cost of construction was here. It's since escalated to here, but they're not escalating those grant funds. And so what the state is allowing people to do is say, okay, how do we creatively create this? And the intent of the proposition money is to get recreation in these communities. How do we get that, how do we get the most bang for our buck? What can we do? And so we've presented them with this, a rough concept of this plan, and they said yes. This is something that we would look forward to and support, because it offers virtually all of the things we're looking for, sans some of the open park space for the moment. But again, that can be done as a future phase. And again, we're aggressively going after grants in the hopes that we can add this or do that as a near future phase to this project.
Okay. And how soon do we think the design phase can start?
We're expecting that to start in the next few weeks.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Council, any other questions at this time? So, quick question. This is the new building was inside originally inside the design, or the idea or the concept was to be built inside what's labeled as the existing building, right?
Correct.
Correct.
The large portion of this was intended to be here. What we've learned over the studies is that the retrofit and upgrade cost to the existing building especially in the current scale that it's in, is cost prohibitive to proceeding forward with the project. It actually, the retrofit alone, without doing any of the improvements or any of the other work, actually exceeds the budget funds we have today.
Okay, so with the budget that we, or the funds that we still have, we will be able to build
Yeah, you're able to build this piece of it.
that.
Yes, absolutely. And again, that was the intent.
If you can share a little bit of the square footage,
What's that?
the square footage so that they have an idea.
Yeah, so this building is approximately, I think it's like 7,500 square feet. And we're taking out kind of a smaller piece of it of the existing to make that happen. You still have more than that in the existing building. And that was one of the challenges we were facing, is that the existing building is just so large that there was a lot of work to be done to bring it up to code standards so that it can become an assembly occupancy. And the nice thing about this is you create this new assembly space here, it does not preclude the city from utilizing that building as it is currently allowed today, as large storage space or for other things.
And so with those funds, we won't be able to even renovate, right? I mean, we won't be able to touch that current building.
Correct.
It's just when it says renovate, that is the concept of what we could do in the future.
Correct. Yeah.
So I'll add a little additional information here, Mayor. So, you want to use all of the Prop 68 funds. You don't want to, intermix them with other projects. And so it was decided that it would be a new building. And then we supplemented the new building with, we identified Measure V funds, which we're going to do a lot of the offsite improvements. And we are continuously going to, do fundraising. Our first order of business is, with our fundraising opportunities, is to take the existing space and renovate it. That Dolan Group, they're not going to have anything to do with this portion on this side. That's not going to be their scope. That's something that we're going to do internally. And because not that much work needs to get done, other than there is asbestos in that facility. We do have some funds that we've already identified because of, that building has actually been rented in the past. And so we've had some funds that we've accumulated. And so the idea is to remove the asbestos first and then basically go in there and renovate it so that it can be used. It'll be a space that can be used. And we're currently paying about $1,000 a month for the senior center. So there's an opportunity to save money and move the seniors to that facility. And it's pretty big. I'm sure you guys have been in there. And then what's left of the rest of the building is for a future phase to identify, other opportunities. And then where the park space is, we went after a grant, and hopefully we'll be successful. That one requires a 50% match, but we can use the Prop 68 as a match, okay? And if we're successful for that, we can move along and really, put in a lot of the features that are outlined up there. We have a meeting coming up on August 11th with one of our Assemblywoman Soria. We're going to be asking her, planting seeds for different types of funding. But, we would hope that the railroad company and Caltrans, who owns some of this other property, will just basically donate it to the city for recreational uses. And we can, acquire more of that property because there's lots of opportunities, So that's kind of the game plan. Now, where the EV charging station is in the future phase, again, we're looking for grant funding to be able to buy that and make it self-sufficient. And then where the future basketball courts, that's actually a parking space, so it can be temporarily used for parking, but in the future, we would like to make it an outdoor, basketball court.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Just the question for whoever wants to answer on that where it says feature picnic tables, do you have a rough idea what that would cost? I know we're looking for some sort of grants, but is there a rough number? I mean, I'm not asking to,
That one I don't have a pretty good idea of what the picnic tables would be, but an estimated guess, Anthony, if you had to put, I don't know, say 10 picnic tables out there?
Average cost of a picnic table is between $800 and $1,000.
Yeah, and of course, they would look like the ones that we currently have in the parks.
Yeah.
So if we went with anything a little more fancier, if we wanted to do concrete, then it would be like 3 or 4 times as much.
yeah, I'm looking at the color green in the back. Does that mean it'll be grass out, or what is it gonna be on the bottom there? I know we're looking to put table, I'm just, because I understand what we're gonna do for the new building and all that, I understand that clearly. I was just trying to get that.
Yeah, so that's supposed to be a green space and have, playground and then picnic tables for folks to be able to use.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Council, any other questions?
Just like to make the request that at some point we get the most current update of what numbers look like for what we're currently working on, what we expect for future developments in that area.
Mr. Mayor, if I can.
Yes, go ahead.
To retro the existing building, what kind of a dollar amount are we looking at right now?
Approximately $6 million is the number that had been estimated by the cost estimator.
Thank you.
I think we do understand that we have to complete it and open it by December, I think you said December 27?
Yes.
Okay. We roughly have, I don't know, 2 plus a few months, 2 years plus a few months. Do you already have kind of like a timeline of the next step, I don't know.
Correct. Yes, we've actually crafted a preliminary schedule. We're working with the design consultant SVA to get that finalized. But in general terms, we've got design for probably the next 9 months to get through that, a permitting phase, and then construction. That does give you months of float in there, but because of the timeline and honestly the penalty for not meeting that timeline, which is we have to return the funds. And it's a non-starter in our eyes, so we want to keep that float in case there are issues during construction, things like that that could potentially delay that. We want to make sure that there's some buffer in there so that we can easily achieve that.
Yeah, I'm a visual kind of person, so that would have been helpful. And I'm sure, also so we can have something for the community.
Absolutely.
Because I'm sure everybody here has gotten questions from the community, what's the next step, next phase, by when? And we're like, well, it's difficult to say because things are changing. But, so, any other questions from the council before I go out to the public?
I have one, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, go ahead.
Can you point out, or with the city manager's help, where is the PG&E land exactly on this chart that they own?
The existing transformers?
Yeah.
Or-
What
so-
is PG&E and,
Yeah,
Everybody else owns.
there's a variety of utilities.
railroad.
There's an existing transformer here. There's gas that comes into the back of the existing building there. There's actually fire lines that come into the existing building at the front there. I mean, that's not PG&E, but there's utilities kind of wrapping around that existing building today.
okay. And then the one other thing is, I love the plans, I like it, I think you've got a good timeline. I see the outdoor basketball courts, the future exercise. Is there any way any of these other little open areas could do a soccer field?
It
me,
hasn't
a
been
lot of
programmed
money.
that way.
If I can borrow I
Absolutely.
know there's at least 2 or 3 of these out there. Who has one? Okay.
Got a pen.
So, Mr. Wallace, I think what you were asking is, I was talking about who owns this property in here? And so it's my understanding that Caltrans and the railroad folks own this property. So the idea is to see if we can't get them, donated, or we can buy them for $1, something like that. In terms of a soccer field, I mean, there is space in here if we were able to achieve that. But I think that, given, our big presence here, and really for many, many years, there hasn't been any use other than just staging area, that it would make sense to make this whole area, master plan all that area.
Thank you, that's all.
All right, so at this time, I will go out to the public. Is there any citizen comments or questions? Is there anyone on the phone in regards to this item?
Hello?
Yes, go ahead. Can you please state your name for the record?
Hi, Mr. Mayor. Hi, it's Gabriel Salazar here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
A couple things. My understanding was that there's supposed to be two courts there with instead of one big basketball court. If someone can respond to that, and then number two, my understanding is that there was going to be a vacation there. That was my understanding. There was a vacation on 7th Street between both sides of the park. And then number three, the EV charging station, is everything set in stone the way it is now, or is there room for possible modification in the future to some segments of this project? That's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much for helping us with the grant. I recognize your voice. Let me start from the last question moving forward. So the zoning, we would have to basically, actually our planners here, 7th Street is designated to being abandoned. Okay, and so that way we would be able to connect this whole space here. And so any zone amendments, we would have to go through all of that. And again, we don't have the funding for this, so the idea is to identify the funding and then proceed with that. I don't know, Mr. Gregor, he mentioned the other two components. I didn't quite hear you very well. Gabe, Mr. Salazar, can you state the first two questions?
Yes, sir. The first question was that there were going to be two basketball courts or two multi-purpose courts instead of one big court. And the second was if the EV charging station area that's proposed, if we're able to modify in the future in case we want more park space or something like that. Is the way it's planned right now, is that set in stone, or is there room for possible modification in the future as we move forward?
So he mentioned something about two basketball courts. My assumption, this space here is pretty huge, so there's going to be, more than one.
I think what he's talking about is the new building and potentially having cross basketball courts over a single master. Which it would increase the size of that building. Something we could look at. We believe we've kind of maxed out the size of that building. That said, we can take a look at that. You would end up, my guess is, just because we're starting to push the edge of what we've got for available funds, it might be harder to do that, but at the same time, it's something we will definitely take a look at, because you're talking about expanding open space that's already open. It's stretching, steel a little bit. It's not high dollar cost space to increase.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Ramirez, and it's a good thing that you mentioned that we're in the process of abandoning that section of 7th Street. And that way it's...
So that parking there, we have to talk about it, because if this is abandoned, then this here...
There's no parking.
There's no parking, and we probably have to move the building. But again, abandoning doesn't mean that we have the funds to do anything in here.
Yeah.
So for the meantime, we'll figure that out.
Yeah, and then so thinking of the future, also the alley, since, how would that work if part of the alley also belongs to the other property to the left?
Okay, so we don't have any improvements outlined for the alley, and you're absolutely right. We cannot impede access to these property owners. We own this, but we don't own that, and we don't own this. So in the future, if we're able to, acquire this piece of property, then in essence, they'll still have access here, and if we get this property, then we control the entire alley. But yeah, there won't be any abandonment of the alley at this point.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other questions on the phone? Hearing none, coming back to the chamber. Is there any questions in the chamber? Please step forward.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Gino Cooey in Livingston. And I want to thank your manager, Mr. Ramirez, for sending me this transit center concept drawing. And from what I understand, you've worked really hard in getting the ACE train to stop here when it comes over, is the ultimate pass. It comes to Tracy now, it's going to come down here, and it's going to go as far as Merced and join up with two other passenger trains. But you got it over Atwater. You're number one from what I understand, which is great. This is so close. The train goes right by this property. I don't see why. Why are you not planning all this together? And why on this plan you have between 99 and the railroad tracks you're going to put the station? How are the people going to get from the train station across the railroad tracks, and it's just a block from here, 2 blocks from here? And how are you going to put all of this, and this is not your plan right here, but you've got all of this the market and all, and that's where you're going to put on the other side of the train tracks. It seems to me, I would plan the whole area together. And then you want to see where the revenue comes from. And mixed use, if you plan for mixed use where you have the people living around that transit area, and that will generate a lot more. So,
Mrs. Akui, thank you very much for your comments. You just gave me a big smile because it is planned that way. It is master planned. And so let me give a little context for you all. So, Monica, can you put, if you can go to Google Earth and maybe zoom in on the city map close to downtown. As a matter of fact, it's even the Terra Santas and the Livingston Medical Clinic, not the self-help housing because that wasn't in the mix at that moment in time. But we looked at transit-oriented development, and so where the True Value hardware store is, that property in there was sold to True Valley, but the back portion, you can actually access what is it called? The self-help, what's the Sol, what are they called? Casitas del Sol, okay, and Tierra Santa and so forth, and any other future development on that side that was being planned for mixed use, were all interconnected, and for the purpose of connecting with the transit station. And the transit station was actually done in 2 phases because you never know what can happen. So the first phase was to do the transit center because it's not connected to any other funding. And guess what happened? Unfortunately, the high-speed rail, the $4 billion was taken away. And so now the ACE train, that was one of the main reasons why they were going to make their way to Merced. That doesn't mean it's not going to happen in the future, but for right now, that's basically on hold. So it affects us, but it doesn't affect us because we're still moving forward with the transit center. And so from that transit center, making our way down and connecting to this regional sports complex center. So let's see, here's Fortunas, and let's see, CD Street. Okay, so basically this area right in here You're exactly right. That's why we have the Measure V fund, the 20% set aside is for actual trails. And, we actually have we got MCAG to do one of our bicycle trail plans. And the idea is exactly that, is to interconnect a lot of, these different mixed-use and transient development. And we, right over here, we have Foster Farms and a lot of employees. And so the idea was and we talked, that's why we got a lot of support from Foster Farms and several of the other businesses, is that we wanted folks to take the commuter train, because the ACE train, that's exactly what it's intended to be, a commuter train. So we did, and to compete and be able to win the station, the city of Livingston commissioned a commuter study, and we know exactly how many people are actually making their way into the Bay Area. And then the city here, we actually moved some money around, and we did some things, and we did a lot of legwork, and we were successful in landing the train station in Livingston. So a lot of this area in here is dead space, and it belongs to Caltrans because when they built the freeway. And so when I said dead space, it's not being used, and there's really no way in and out other than right here. And so there's an opportunity to do carpooling, EV charging stations, and transit buses and all that other stuff. So yes, thank you for bringing that to our attention. And yes, it is tied together, and we're trying to tie other opportunities over here as this land is being developed.
Can you just clarify, you mentioned something over behind the True Value. Is that going to be a station there instead?
No station.
Okay, why did you bring that up?
I bring that up because the idea is to interconnect, put a trail.
This is for your trails.
Yeah,
okay.
to
okay, but the station
interconnect.
would still be here, but you're still going to have to get across the tracks.
Yes.
And that's going to be expensive. Anyway, but it seems to me with your open space down, to there, that should be maybe considered for your, for the train station, not have it on between the 99 and the tracks. In other words, have it on the side of the town. So you get out of the station, you're right in town.
Well, one of the issues with that is the space. We don't have any space in here to be able to accommodate that. And because this is dead space, and we have property owners that are willing participants, and by the way, all of this property, all of this in here is dead space.
Okay, that's dead space. But if you wanted to get it to connect the people to the train easily, it seems to me that this planning here for what he brought, that should be all tied together.
Yes.
Thank you. Is there any other additional questions or comments in regards to this item? Anyone in the chamber? Seeing none, closing the citizen comments at 7:39, bringing it back to the dais. Council, is there any other questions, comments at this time? Just for myself, I think we met before, and my main concern, and I think everybody's concern, is to make sure that we get this finished, completed on time. Yes, we do need additional funding for some of the other parts of the plan, but I agree it is best to start working on what we have, and hopefully eventually at the same time continue working on trying to find grants and funding for some of the other areas that we want to see in the near future. So, just from what I gather, and some of the main questions from the community that I used to get and I still get is, one, when are we going to break ground? And two, are we going to be able to complete it on time? So I think for the most part, those questions have been answered, and let's just hope that everything stays in place and we just get it done. All right. Council, anything else? Any other questions? Any additional comments? No? We're good? All right. Thank you. Appreciate it. Next, we have citizen comments. This section of the agenda allows members of the public to address the City Council on any item not on the agenda. Members of the public, when recognized by the mayor, should come forward to the lectern and identify themselves. Comments are normally limited to 3 minutes. In accordance with state open meeting laws, no action will be taken by the City Council this evening. Is there any citizen comments on anything that is not on the agenda at this time? Is there anyone on the phone? Coming back to the chamber at 7:41, any citizen comments? Please step forward. State your name for the record.
Alrighty. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council, and City of Livingston. My name is Karthik Prasad, here on behalf of Congressman Adam Gray, and here to give a quick update since the last City Council meeting, because it is finally August, which is the big month-long recess in the House of Representatives, which for those of us in district is anything but a recess, because we get a whole month with the congressman, and we are sending him far and wide from all the way up to Lathrop to all the way down in Coalinga. Just yesterday, the congressman was in Turlock, where we stuffed him full of a boatload of meetings and had a pretty decent time. And this morning, we had our second Veterans Advisory Committee meeting, where we met with veterans community leaders from all across our district, including several members of Livingston's own VFW and American Legion, and we had a very productive discussion. A lot of issues were brought up, and we discussed a lot about the Congressman's Strive Act, which was a bill we introduced that would eliminate VA hospital copay for veterans, which has passed the House Veterans Committee with unanimous support, which is a huge win for us, and the next stop is the floor. So you can bet that September, after the recess, is going to be a very busy month for us. Back in February, the congressman offered an amendment to the budget framework that would have prevented some cuts to Medicaid, and these amendments were not adopted. But as a result of H.R. 1 passing, which has a lot of Medicaid cuts that could affect nearly 420,000 of our constituents in district, the congressman's introduced a Protecting Healthcare Access bill, which would restore full Medicaid funding and protect care to Valley families. Big thing to announce is our office has moved from Turlock. We're now back in Merced at 602 West 20th Street. It's great to be back in Merced. I'm not complaining because my commute is now 5 minutes, so it's awesome. However, we're still having our mobile district office hours in Livingston on August 14th, right here in the City Council chambers from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock, August 14th. So I would love to see members of the public there. We can sit down, discuss, and if you've got any tomatoes to throw at me, I am ready to take them.
So, sweet potatoes here.
Yeah, bring your best ones. We can sit down, discuss which ones are better, and maybe have a good pizza while we're at it. But yeah, with our new office, we're more than happy. We're fully up and running, so feel free to reach out, call, stop by, and subscribe to our newsletter at gray.house.gov to stay up to date. So thanks.
All right. So also, if you can share later when you have an opportunity, share if you guys have a flyer or something for that meeting, or when you guys have something from the new office, just share it with us so that we can share it with the community as well.
Yeah, we can certainly send a email with that, and it's on our social medias and website. So I will email that to the city.
Perfect. And then remind the Congressman just if he finds any extra money to send it our way, because we need it. All right. Thank you. Any other citizen comments in the chamber at this time? Seeing none, closing the citizen comments at 7:44. Next, we have County Supervisors' announcements and reports. Supervisor Jim Pacheco, announcements and reports.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Thank you for having me. I just want to say congratulations on a wonderful National Night Out here. Great participation by the community and our partners out there. I was able to donate 100 backpacks, and looks like with the help of Jackie, we're getting them all filled up, so for the kids to go back to school. So a great event, so glad to be a part of it. I was also here on Saturday. I want to say congratulations to Brian Friesen and Livingston True Value Hardware for his 60th anniversary here in Livingston. I know it's a big part of the history here in town. I came out and met with him and was able to get a couple of good deals, and I just want to make sure that he's congratulated and he's part of the community. I know that the Livingston Explorers helped him out there too. I want to say congratulations to them. We had our first Explorer Academy at UC Merced that had the explorers not only from Livingston but from all over the county, and it was a successful event. But I know Livingston was part of it and they graduated, so I want to say congratulations to those explorers. So, and just with the beginning of our conversations, like there's a lot of exciting things happening for Livingston, so I'm happy to be a part of it. And if you guys need any assistance with anything, please let me know. We're going to have our board meeting next Tuesday in Merced at 10 o'clock. So if anybody has anything, let me know, or you can join our meeting with any concern that you have. And just want to see if anybody has anything for me tonight.
Are there any questions for the supervisor? Just one question. I haven't had a chance to look at the schedule of your meetings for the rest of the year or the calendar year. Do you still have, I know in the past you had, or they had at least two of those meetings in the evenings. Are they still?
I believe, yes, we still have two of those on the calendar. I don't have them in front of me, so I don't know exactly which ones, but I believe we still have two meetings that are going to be in the evenings.
Okay.
So I'll get those to you. You can put them out.
Yeah, please, thanks.
Okay.
Council, any questions? Good, all right.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have announcements and reports. City staff, do we have any city staff announcements or reports?
We got Anthony coming in first.
We have Public Works.
Good evening, Council. I do have a couple things I wanted to share. I wanted to share that Public Works recently sent out a flyer in the utility billing that informs our residents of our watering schedule that is in effect. That flyer has information on what's permitted and what's not permitted and outdoor watering tips. Staff will also be posting conservation tips on our Public Works social media site. So if you aren't following, we do have a Facebook social media site. You can search City of Livingston Public Works to follow. We'll be, like I said, we'll be posting conservation tips, sharing information such as if you suspect you have a water leak at home, you can call Public Works and we'll send a staff member out for free to help you identify those leaks and other useful information. I also wanted to excuse me, let the public know that there will be road work performed on B Street in front of the self-help project, which is called River Glen. This is a new 80-unit apartment complex next to the Livingston Community Health. Road work is expected to take place within 2 to 3 weeks. There will be no closures and traffic will still be flowing, but there will be some minimal interruptions, some narrow lanes. That's all.
Council, any questions? Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, Anthony, I know I should probably reserve this for on 1-1, but it's not a big deal. I was asked a question, maybe we don't know the answer. Is it better to water your lawn more frequently, or is it better to water at a deeper?
It depends on what time. It's better to water your lawn in the morning, in the late hours.
No, I'm not talking about time, I'm talking about the frequency. Is it better to water it, I'm not saying we're gonna do that, just 5 days a week, or is it better to water it and for 5 minutes or something like that? Or is it better to water for 15 minutes, but twice a week or something like that?
I think it'd be better deep watering.
Deep watering?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, somebody was telling me I was debating that, but I said, you know what? I'll find out. Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else?
Just real quick, so what do you mean by deep watering? You mean like for 15 minutes instead of 5 minutes?
Yeah, but you want to be careful that you're not overwatering and allowing water runoff into the street as well, because then you'll just be wasting water.
Yeah, so that was my point, because sometimes most of our yards are not that big or large. So even when you water or the average yard for 5 minutes, sometimes the water it's watering long enough to where the water now is running off onto the sidewalk and then onto the street. So
Yeah, that's just give and take from experience on how big your lawn is, and if your lawn's compacted, the dirt's compacted, you just got to be careful and not allow the runoff.
Yeah, and that was the conversation, Mr. Mayor, sorry, through you, of course, that if the lawn is semi-moist, the water seeps. If it's been completely dry, you put water, it just runs off.
Yeah, and then again,
And that was the debate we were having, so.
Yeah.
all right, so, and I just want to say thank you. I know that I'm sure everybody else does too, but I do get a lot of inquiries or questions or concerns, and most of those are related to Public Works. I always encourage people to call directly. I mean, for them to know that there's someone that will answer the phone at the Public Works office, and they will more than likely answer the questions and help with whatever concern they have. But I'm okay if they still continue to reach out to me, and then I'll forward it to the city manager. But my point is two. One, for residents to feel comfortable calling, even if it's call City Hall and then figure out who else to call, like a particular department, or email. And at the same time, just want to thank you for quick response to most of the residents' concerns, and to provide additional information, because 98% of the time I have no idea what they're talking about when it comes to landscaping or certain trees and stuff like that. I always have to rely on you and for that part. But thank you for those quick responses, and
Yes, sir. And we encourage the public to give Public Works a call on anything, potholes in the streets, overwatering, whether it's your neighbors or whether it's a city park. We want to be mindful with our resources as well. So feel free to give us a call or email us if you have reservations about calling. You could email us at Public Works, or through the city web portal as well. If it has to do with the Public Works, it'll be sent to Public Works. If it has to do with the PD or Fireball, it'll be sent to the proper departments.
Yes, and in lieu of what Anthony mentioned, we're always looking at how we can, save some money for our residents. So some of our major parks, rather than having to use potable water to irrigate, these big expanses of grass areas, we're looking at other alternatives where we don't use treated water. So, we're looking at all these different alternatives. Thank you, Anthony.
Yeah. Well, one more thing, we are continuing to have our compost and wood chip giveaway. So, Brett, this is free to residents. Please take advantage of this. You could use it on your landscape at home, on your lawn at home as well. You can use the compost as a fertilizer, and wood chips in your garden to keep the weeds down.
just one quick last question. Is there any plans for electronics, like electronic pickup,
We do have an annual event that is tied into our tire and mattress, and it's a e-waste event, all commingled into one. But also just a reminder to all our residents, they have 4 pickups that they could call Jilton for free of charge, to pick up your e-waste, your electronics, your TVs, computers.
do you have an idea when that mattress and tire?
Yeah, that usually takes place in April.
April?
Yeah.
Okay.
Usually takes place in April every year.
All right, got it.
All righty.
Thank you. Is there any other city staff announcements and reports? Glenn?
I have a question. What is, Gateway do online?
Can you come up to the,
Blaine Yagi, when is pump A8 going to be online? How soon will that be?
It's projected to be online February 2026.
all right, thank you. All right, so next we have city manager announcements and reports.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. One item that I'm sure that Anthony wanted to communicate, but there is, let's see, off of, what's the name of that street? It's a little, White Cliff Drive. Basically, there's a pretty big leak in there, and it looks like it's some MID facilities. And so we made contact with MID. They're going to come out and do an assessment. I hope that it's, on their dime, but I'll be praying for that. So hopefully we cordon that off, and so that you're going to see some work in that area. The other thing that I wanted to mention is there's been quite a bit of interest from different business entrepreneurs, some from outside the area, but they want to do business here, and others are from the area that want to do business here. And as you know, there's some spaces that have been made available. Mr. Bassi built some business offices there. And so some of the of what they want to do there, a business that they want to open up in that particular area, because it's designated commercial, and some of these other some of these businesses are characterized as businesses that should be in light industrial areas, as an example, tattoos. So there's some folks that would like council to look at and staff to look at the possibility of making some amendments in our ordinance to address some of those opportunities. The other thing that I wanted to mention as well is that staff continues to work very diligently on providing all of the information to Wilden Financial Services in preparation for our Prop 218 process that's coming later down the road as it relates to utility rates. And the other item that I wanted to talk about is related to the housing element. There's quite a bit of work that's being done. We're answering a lot of questions from HCD, and we're hoping to get that all certified by them and moving forward. Of course, all of that's tied into the general plan, which you guys are going to talk about tonight. We continue to have conversations with the county on the tax sharing agreement side, and we're also are waiting for a response to meet with them again on the fire services side with our ad hoc committee. So a lot going on, and thank you very much. That is it on my end.
Thank you. Any questions? Any questions? Anyone on the phone? Any questions in the chamber? Any questions on the dais? All right, thank you. So next we have conflict of interest declaration. Members of the City Council will declare an actual or apparent conflict of interest before discussions or decisions about any matters in which they are or anyone with whom they have a close personal relationship could directly or indirectly benefit, or where such a benefit could be perceived. Is there any conflict of interest from the council?
Mr. Mayor, not a conflict of interest on an item. I just wanted to flag something for the sake of transparency. There's a check written out to me in the warrant register for this meeting for $1,040.70. That is a reimbursement for my expenses of staying for the One Voice trip with MCAG. There was a little bit of mishap in the way that was charged. It ended up getting charged to my personal credit card without my knowledge. I did move forward with the reimbursement with the city, and that expense is a reimbursement for that charge.
All right, thank you. Council, anything else? Seeing none, moving forward. Consent agenda. Items on the consent calendar are considered routine or non-controversial and will be enacted by one vote. Unless separate action is requested by a member of the public, the city manager or city council member, there will be no separate discussion of these items unless members of the public, city council, or city manager request that specific items be removed. Public comment or on consent agenda items should be limited to 3 minutes per person, regardless of the number of items contained within the consent agenda. Council, is there any questions on any items under the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor, can we pull item 17 from consent?
Pull it for separate discussion?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Item 17, anything else? So prior to, and just for the record, prior to approving the rest of the consent agenda items, I just want to make a note of some edits that needed it to be corrected for the record. On item number 11, there was a typo on page 52. And it named a previous council member which is no longer on the dais, so that needed to be corrected. On item number 12, there were several corrections that needed to be made on which have been made by Monica, and also on item 15 on the minutes from July 15, that it was mentioned that I was here, but I was actually absent, so that correction needed to be done. And my understanding is that those corrections have been made, and everyone has copies on the dais, copies of those corrections, and then also the correct minutes and documents have been uploaded onto the website. So with those corrections being made for the record, I have nothing else. I will contemplate a motion.
Motion to approve consent agenda with the exception of 17.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor by Mayor Pro Tem Samra. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Second by Councilmember Roth. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Councilmember Roth,
Yes.
Councilmember Paul,
Yes.
Councilmember Wallace,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Samra,
Yes.
Mayor Moran.
Yes.
Motion passes by a vote of 5-0.
Thank you. All right, so next we have, item number 17, which was pulled, consideration of a resolution protecting and promoting the health and welfare of its residents by maintaining a fully operational and effective fire department. Staff recommendation, approved resolution.
I requested this item. I can take it.
Yes, go ahead.
So I requested this item at the end of our July 1st meeting. I want to thank staff for bringing it back for approval. Had a conversation with the resident right outside when we were at National Night Out, and they're asking for a status update on the fire department and what that timeline looks like, given that we do have that June deadline. And they said, hey, from an outside perspective, it looks like there's nothing being done at any council meetings, and we're not really in the know of where we're at. It feels like the clock is ticking and the city's not making tangible progress. Kind of let them know work that's being done behind the scenes. Mr. Ramirez alluded to a little bit of it earlier, negotiations with the county, not just on tax sharing, but also on a potential contract extension for fire services as we navigate staffing our own department. But just one thought that I've had in mind over the last couple months, and the reason why I wanted to put this resolution forward is I disagree with the fact that nothing's being done. There is work being done, it's just not always being done here, or it's in an office, or in separate meetings. However, I don't feel like we've moved fast enough by any means. From the time before me getting on council and from the time since I've been on council, I don't think that our pace has been fast enough with this item. Not necessarily afraid that we're gonna end up without a fire station. However, I think we need to move forward with better pace. And so in the absence of a strategic plan, we don't have any formal priorities in the city. We kind of just do whatever we need to do as things come up. We have understood priorities. We have stated priorities on the dais that we talk about. However, we don't have solid direction for ourselves and for staff to say, this is what we're going to go out and accomplish, and this is the way that we're going to do it. And so the intention with this resolution is to formally, as a matter of policy, state that maintaining a fully operational and effective fire department is the top priority for the city, and any activities related to making sure that the fire department stays open will take precedence over other city activities as needed. And that's explicitly stated in the resolution. Mr. Wallace, you had made a comment about funding. I believe you were alluding to Measure L and percentages of where money goes. There is language in the resolution about Measure L. However, it's my understanding that it simply states that Measure L was passed and that it's expected to generate a certain sum of money. There is no language in this resolution that portions that money out in any way. It doesn't say that a certain amount's going to fire and won't go to other places. The resolution simply states that the city is working to maintain a fire department. It is the top priority, and activities related to maintaining a fire department will take precedence over other activities, other meetings, et cetera, to make sure that in June of next year, we don't shut down our fire station. So that's the intention of this item. I'm open to any questions from other council members, and I strongly recommend that we approve this tonight.
My other question, Councilman Wupa, is just the last sentence where it takes precedence over all other city activities. Everybody knows we need the fire department, but there's other things in the city that could come up at the same time or be more raging. We could lose 3 wells, fire, police station burn. I mean, just that, if you got rid of that last sentence, I'd be happy with it. Just that last, I just don't like that wording on that last sentence where it takes precedence over all other city activities. We know it's on the front line. We know it's the first thing we're dealing with. I just don't like how that last sentence is worded.
I would like to state, it doesn't mean that we're not going to work on other stuff. It just means that this is a top priority. And if we were to go out and build a strategic plan, we would build priorities by number. And set certain things aside. I do also want to note the language as needed. It doesn't mean that the fire department is the only thing that we're going to work on. It doesn't mean that if there's a disaster in the city, we're just going to ignore it because we're working on the fire department. It simply states that maintaining our fire department is the city's top priority. That's the idea here. I don't think anybody on the dais necessarily disagrees with that. I mean, if you do, now's the time to discuss. However, again, I don't think we've moved fast enough. I think we can all do more on our end to move ourselves forward. And this is a way to state that as a matter of policy.
I think this is a good opportune time for me to just kind of give a synopsis of what has been accomplished to date, so that way at least the community has a baseline, and then we can move from here. So since then, we've actually the council went ahead and moved forward with the establishment of a Measure L committee, which is an oversight committee. And by the way, we only have, I believe, 2 applicants. We need some additional applicants. We also established the ad hoc committee for the fire services, and there's been some meetings with the county, and there's been a lot of meetings internally. So right now, what we're looking at is we've met with the city of Atwater, we met with the city of Merced, we've inquired with the city of Turlock and other cities across many different fronts, and we've talked to Cal Fire to see if we can work with them directly. However, that's been cost prohibitive. We're talking about $4 million. So if you look at what we're going to get from Measure L, which is about 1.8 this year and about 2 million next year, we currently pay a fire parcel tax to the county, and so they take about $1.5 million. It's 1 million plus 500,000, and you look at the equipment that we need. We're talking only about personnel costs, and so with Councilmember Upo and Mayor, we said, hey, you know what? There's a huge lead time on ordering a lot of apparatuses and equipment. So Right now, actually, our department is looking at what type of truck we should order, what type of chassis we should order, the brand, et cetera. And then in addition to that, we're hoping to get an extension with the county because it all right now looks like we're going to have to go on our own and have our own police, our own fire department, that is, and training behind it, and then making sure that we have these different mutual aids because we all need each other. In addition to that, we've had conversations with the CEO and all the city managers about, hey, maybe we should have a consolidated fire district because we're too small in this county and we all need each other. We've had conversations with the county CEO and a couple of the supervisors as well. So there's a lot of moving parts, and we want to move faster. And I'm in agreement with Councilmember Upal. And this is not just here in the dais. That's everybody in the county, and because we need each other, and this is something very important.
Is there any other questions, comments on the dais? Mayor Pro Tem, you had a...
Yes, I do. Just for clarification, I can understand Mr. Wallace's concerns, and we all have it. And just to get a clarification from you, Mr. Wallace, if I may understand, you mentioned that if a well goes down, correct?
I did. I said, look, 2 hits.
Yeah, but I'm not sure that we can use Measure L for wells.
Public safety.
No, I'm not sure if that's what counts. But anyway, and a second one, you said if a building or something, I'm not sure if that really comes into it, but when the Measure L committee gets going, they'll be the ones making recommendations on the fundings and all that, So I'm not sure if you have concern. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what you're looking for.
Okay. Yeah, I just don't like it was all above all other city activities.
Yeah.
I just didn't like that sentence. That was only.
I mean, we can, if, I don't know, and I'll leave it to Councilmember Upal and you guys. Anyway, Councilmember Upal, anyway, where it says fire department take precedence, can there be anything be changed, says regarding Measure L money or something in that sentence? Just so that way he doesn't think that it's for above everything else?
I mean, in theory, we can. However, I do want to say, I think that's the most important line of the resolution because that is the formal statement that this is our priority. Again, this does not mean that we're going to stop doing everything else, shut the city down, and only focus on our fire department. This means that if we need to prioritize moving forward on a meeting with the county or on a meeting internally with fire over potentially a meeting with self-help enterprises or a developer that wants to come in, we say, hey, we're in a drastic situation with our fire department. We are at risk of our station closing in June, and we need to make sure that we take care of this over anything else as needed. That is the purpose of that statement. Again, we're not shutting down the rest of the city. We are just formally stating this as our priority. And at least when I speak to the residents of all the different asks, this is the major concern. Is the station going to stay open?
Yeah.
This affirms in policy that we're making sure we prioritize that in our actions.
And I have no doubt that the 5 electeds up on the dais here are echoing the same to the residents that fire service is priority, and we're going to make sure that we get it done. But is there a way, anything you can change in there to put Mr. Wallace's to rest in any way? Any wording you can change, maybe?
I think we can.
You're a pretty smart guy. You're pretty.
Mr. Wallace, if it makes you feel a little bit better about the resolution, I think I don't see any problem with adding a line that says, whereas the city will still continue to work on all other necessary functions, just to make sure that that's explicitly stated as well. Again, it's not my intention to just stop doing everything else. I just want to make sure this is our top priority. So if that would satisfy that, I'm more than happy to include that within.
It would.
Good.
Mr. Ramirez, Mark, I'm not sure if we need any more words other than whereas the city will continue to perform all other necessary functions. But if that suffices on your guys' end, I'm more than happy to have that be the wording.
And, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm going to interlineate and add a new fifth recital and renumber the subsequent recitals. So this new fifth recital will read, as the council member stated, whereas the city will continue to perform all other city functions.
Sure.
Is that?
Is that sufficient, Mr.? That's good.
Okay, perfect.
And I want to thank both of my council members. Thank you very much for working this out. I know it's a simple little thing, but it shows the unity and our commitment to the fire services. Thank you.
So at this time, I will go out for public comment. Is there any public comment on the phone in regards to this item? 8:16. Hearing none, coming back to the chamber, is there any public comment or questions in regards to this item in the chamber? Seeing none, closing the citizen comments at 8:16, bringing it back to the dais. Any further discussion, motions?
If there's no other questions or comments, I'll motion to approve as amended.
So I have a motion on the floor by Councilmember Upal. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Councilmember Roth. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Councilmember Roth,
Yes.
Councilmember Upal,
Yes.
Councilmember Wallace,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Semra,
Yes.
Mayor Moran.
Yes.
Motion passes by a vote of 5-0.
Thank you. And next we have a public hearing. Item number 26, consideration of a resolution selecting a preferred land use alternative for use in the updated of City of Livingston 2040 General Plan and General Plan Land Use Diagram.
Monica, if you can bring up
Just
the
before you get started, real quick, Miguel, thank you. Just wanted to provide a little bit of additional information. I know that several months ago, there was, there's been quite a bit of talk about our water infrastructure. Do we have enough capacity? Don't we have enough capacity? So forth and so on. Just wanted to just share with the public that, there's been a lot of conversation internally with a lot of different departments, and the city is working diligently on all fronts as it relates to, our water infrastructure. You heard Anthony talk about February of 2026 for well 8A. We've had some conversations with, other stakeholders. So we do have a running tab on, what our capacity is. And this is always a moving target because, you have to continuously work on these things. If you stop, then you are going to have issues. But as of right now, there is stability. We have, a list of all these different infrastructure projects in the mix. And then we have, of course, our Prop 218 hearing that's scheduled for later this year. So just want to put that into context so that we can have a good conversation on the general plan and development and everything else moving forward. Go ahead, Miguel.
Thank you, Jose. Good evening, council, staff, members of the audience. Miguel Galvez, contract city planner. The city began its journey of updating the general plan in the spring of 2020. This was just after the COVID epidemic. Things have changed in how we work and how we shop, how we interact. And throughout that process, we finally arrived at a significant milestone this evening in the update of the general plan. Tonight, Mintier Harnish, the general plan update consultants, will facilitate the process of selecting a preferred land use alternative. The preferred land use alternative will serve as the foundation, building blocks, if you will, for directing land use development for the city's general plan for the foreseeable future, the next 15 years or 15 to 20 years. They will be provided an overview this evening, reviewing the steps taken to arrive at this point of time. They will be reviewing various land use alternatives that have been presented to the community, as well as they will be reviewing the Planning Commission's preferred land use alternative. The focus now shifts to the council. In the council's role in helping shape how the city will grow for the next 15 years. Before we begin, I do want to mention that we did receive additional correspondence. Copies of correspondence has been provided to the council at the dais, and copies are available by the entrance table. We received a letter from the California Farmland Trust, a letter from LAFCO, correspondence from Blaine Yagi. Throughout the process, we welcome community input and participation during the public hearings, and especially this evening, we have a sign-up sheet in the back for members of the audience that want to continue to receive information, so please sign into that, and you will be added to our distribution information. Lastly, we also have copies of the PowerPoint. So at this point, I'll turn it over to our friends over at Mintier Harnish.
Yes, one moment before we turn it over to Mr. Harnish. Wanted to also communicate that the city has been in constant communication with the county, providing the county with, all the different steps as it relates to our general plan process. And we've also made contact with Mr. Nicholson over at LAFCO. Several months ago, we made contact with them and talked about the municipal service review, which is something that the city's responsible for. They actually have a third-party consultant that they work with, and then we basically pay for those services. So this is a partnership with all the different stakeholders, and so your input is very valuable. Today at National Night Out, we had several folks who came down and signed in. I know that Grace Homes wants to be annexed into the city. There's been some other neighboring properties. I know that Mr. Cabral, has a project that he would like the county and the city to look at. And so that's what it's all about, just working together and bringing, more opportunity for Livingston residents. Mr. Harnish.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Mr. Ramirez, Mr. Miguel. Pleasure to be with you all this evening. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. It's a pleasure to provide you an update on your general plan project. Tonight we are facilitating more of a study session in which we will also be seeking feedback and action from the City Council on a preferred land use alternative. Next slide, please. Here is just our overview of this evening. I'll start with just a general description of what general plans are. This might be a new topic to some, but really the topic of this evening is to provide an update as to where we're at. And we are currently at what we're calling the land use alternatives phase, which is really kick us into gear for the actual update to all of your various general plan elements and various goals and policies. Next slide. So just a brief overview of who we are before we get into the presentation itself. My name is Michael Gibbons. I am a project manager for Mintier Harnish, the land use consulting team that was selected to assist the city in this exciting project. Along with me is Jim Harnish, who is principal and owner of Mintier Harnish, who is acting as the project director for this task, and also Hannah Woolsey, who is the project planner. Along with us and assisting the city in this effort are two other teaming partner consulting firms, GHD Consulting. They will be handling the transportation, traffic analysis, and also be instrumental in analyzing the environmental impacts as part of this project. And then Rincon Consultants is the primary for the safety element concerns and some of the required analyses for fire hazards. And we'll also be conducting the environmental impact report that's required as part of a general plan update. So what are general plans? I'll just briefly touch on this topic. Really, general plans are required by every city and county. Every city and county is required to have one in California. What they are is they are a blueprint, or essentially a plan for the future. They represent each community's long-term growth decisions, and they do that by setting expectations through goals, policies, and programs. These goals, policies, and programs are those that which the city will make decisions off of and will impact the future. Really, these goals and programs are organized by topics. Every general plan is organized by a range of topics that range from land use to economic development. We call these elements. Here's just a overview of how the general plan really fits into the overall scheme of kind of development and development regulations that you might be aware of. General plans are the foundational document of your city. So all other goals, policies, programs, ordinances have to be consistent and in compliance with your general plan. It is a requirement through state law. And again, they serve as the foundation that your zoning and your building permits build off of. General plans are general in nature. They're supposed to be long-term and provide that far 15 to 20-year future guidance. The city initiated this update in around 2020. Really, the focus of this update was to produce a new general plan. The general plan hadn't been updated, I believe, since 1999. To produce a general plan that was more innovative, contemporary, would address topics of statewide concern, including environmental justice, safety hazards, climate change, would also include emerging trends, and encourage diversity and inclusivity in the outreach. Additionally, there is an emphasis on smart growth and making efficient land use decisions with the land that is currently within the jurisdictional limits, and also provide the opportunity for this general plan to encourage economic stability and vitality through intergovernmental coordination, downtown preservation, and economic diversification. So really looking at land uses and types of businesses and non-commercial businesses that we're encouraging to locate into the city. This project is and will require the preparation of an environmental impact report. Every major planning project in California requires some sort of review through what we call CEQA. This project is no different, and that's why we have contracted out services through Rincon Consulting, who will start up their review of this, the environmental analysis of the project after really this evening, after we can come together and select a preferred land use map or alternative for the general plan itself. So this is a multifaceted, multi-year project. With any large project, we break it up into bite-sized pieces, and in this case, phases. So we have a total of 8 phases for this project. We are essentially right in the middle. We're in phase 5, where we are honing in on a new land use map. So really trying to determine what your city will look like in the next 15 to 20 years from a general plan mapping perspective. Where we've been is we've already initiated this project back in 2020. We've adopted a community vision and guiding principles that have guided this general plan. We've hosted and facilitated a multitude of workshops. Really, that is the culmination of where we are this evening, where we are recommending that City Council take action on selecting a preferred alternative that will then really usher us into the future phases of this project. Where we're going next is after we've selected a preferred alternative this evening, we can actually go into preparing the various updates to all of your elements and preparing new maps. That process will take around 4 to 6 months, in which case we will initiate an environmental review. That's that environmental impact report I was talking about. That's scoped for about a year. And then we get into the actual adoption of the general plan itself and all of its various elements, which is around three-month process. So really, the intent to this evening tonight, though, is to bring us up to speed on our current phase. And our current phase is land use alternatives. So this might be a new concept. So I just want to briefly describe what land use alternatives are and really how they're playing into the overall project. I like to think of land use alternatives as more of an analysis of what-if scenarios. For example, what if the city were to increase density? Or what if this part of the city were to be developed over that part of the city? And really, we look at various models and scenarios, and we build them out conceptually. The goal of this process, of this task, is to generate a new land use map for your city. So City of Livingston has an existing general plan land use map. Here's a picture of it on the screen. Every general plan has a land use map. The land use map is just a component of your general plan. What it does is it guides the general layout of your city. It does so by dividing your jurisdiction into different land use categories or designations. And each of those designations has a certain types of allowed land uses that could be allowed within that space. So residential designations or commercial designations. A land use map is important and because it really is the foundational kind of guiding urban fabric document, but it also helps us in analyzing some of the required transportation infrastructure, safety analyses and concerns, looking from a physical built environment aspect. And then also the general plan map helps us develop the zoning map, which is typically what people are interacting with if they're going for building permits or interacting with the planning department. For this particular task, this was our approach to come up with a new land use map for Livingston, or to guide the City Council to select a new land use map. We started by creating a set of realistic land use scenarios, a total of 3 of them, which I'll provide an overview of. We then looked at those scenarios and we analyzed them to compare the results of each to each other. And then we summarized the results of those different land use scenarios and alternatives in a summary report that was presented to the public last year. Now, before I go further into this conversation, there is going to be some lingo that I want to just get out of the way. First and foremost, because as this conversation, as this project developed, there has been also some shifting in direction or the potential shift in direction as to some of the jurisdictional limits that the city currently has. Now on the screen here is a map of the city. There are 3 distinct lines that you can see here, 3 distinct colors. We have the dashed line, which is the city limits. That is the existing city limits as it is today. Outside of that is the sphere of influence. And then outside of that is your 2040 planning area. Now, the city limits is everything that is currently within the jurisdictional limitations of the city of Livingston. So you provide services, utilities to everything that's in that black line. Anything that's in that blue line, kind of in that space, is the probable boundary or the potential city limit line that the city may expand to at some point that LAFCO has approved, Merced LAFCO has approved. And then that yellow line that you see out there is just our study area. So we're just analyzing impacts potentially that this general plan might have in that orange area. But for the purposes of tonight, what we should really be honing in on is that black dash line and the blue dash line, as those are the existing city limits and sphere of influence. Earlier on in the presentation, I had mentioned that the city, I believe I had mentioned the city had recently, in 2008, had gone through a general plan update. And this map is a little bit difficult to see, but this was the proposed sphere of influence and city limit expansion from the general plan update that was conducted in 2008. It's important to note that this plan was overturned in the court, and so it was never adopted. So these city limits and these proposed spheres of influence never materialized. So what we have existing today is what you have before you. However, as this conversation, this alternatives process has evolved, the consideration of expanding this sphere of influence and the city limits has now come up as a topic of discussion and something that the council is being asked to consider this evening. So only reason why I wanted to spend a couple minutes going through this. Again, 2008 proposed land use, sphere of influence and city limits that was successfully overturned in the courts. So for this alternatives analysis, we looked at we developed 3 land use alternatives. One was a baseline alternative. Another one was looking at what if we prioritized efficiency of land uses within the city and didn't expand out to areas outside our sphere of influence or city limits. And then alternative 3 took a different approach. Alternative 3 analyzed what would happen if the city instead didn't prioritize necessarily infill, but looked at potentially developing land outside of its sphere of influence and city limits. Here is just an overview of the raw numbers that came out of that analysis. A detailed analysis is on the website, livingston2040.com. In the build-out land use scenario report, you can see all of the breakdown, but roughly here's where was our starting point when we ran our scenario and what was presented to Planning Commission and the general public at the rollout of this report. We can see that alternative one would be is essentially representing what you have in the city today. If nothing were to change and we were just to update your general plan, not change any land uses, but just change and update some of the language for state law consistency. Alternative two prioritized, again, more of an infill development, where alternative three prioritized expansion. Kind of see some of the trade-offs and some of the different results we get when we do these build-outs and we analyze these alternatives. So want to run through these alternatives with you. Briefly, again, baseline is our alternative one. This represents a no change. This would be what is existing today, and as if the land uses in your jurisdiction did not change for your general plan. This baseline is important because it is a point of comparison as if we did not change anything about your general plan as it exists. And then what also important to emphasize is that this baseline is analyzing your existing sphere of influence again, and your city limits, doesn't propose any expansion or change to that. And here's what that map looks like. This is really your existing general plan map, so it should look quite familiar. Alternative two, which we analyzed, was an infill, so it focused on building out existing vacant and underutilized land, preserving existing agricultural land, creating a new downtown mixed-use designation, and increasing the capacity of existing developed areas, meaning we would increase the amount of height, or we would increase the amount of dwelling units that could be allowed on certain properties. And what that resulted in was a moderate population growth, about a 94% increase in the amount of multifamily homes and about a 16% increase in the single-family homes. And then showed some significant increase in the potential of jobs, that we kind of designated some new areas as non-residential as part of this analysis and scenario. Here's what that looked like. Here we can see there is this dedication of more ag, which would have been a new standalone land use for this alternative. And then in the middle, whereas our downtown, we have this new mixed use designation that we analyzed. And then alternative three was our third. This was an expansion where we looked at annexing. What would it look like if we were to bring in and annex certain areas on the urban fringe of the city limits? This would require converting some existing urban uses to potentially urban uses, so converting agriculture potentially, and increasing the additional infrastructure outside what is currently within the city limits. Results for this alternative really resulted in the highest capacity for population growth. Again, this is an expansion alternative, so that kind of makes sense. We're building on land that currently isn't built. Had a significant increase in the amount of residential units, both single family and multifamily, and then also created the opportunity for a significant increase in potential jobs. And this is what this map looks like. Now, all of that information was summarized, provided to the public. It was rolled out in a workshop that was facilitated on October 29th of last year. We had a successful turnout in our minds. It was one of the first actually in-person workshops that we had since the start of the project. There was a kind of a pause on in-person with COVID and some of the protocols. So it was nice to be back in the council chambers to facilitate that. We discussed the summary report, some of the findings, and we solicited feedback from the public on their preference for these alternatives that we had analyzed. And in general, here's the feedback that we heard. There is a general support for growth. If there was a preference on a land use alternative, it was a preference for alternative two, which was a more efficient infill focused, not looking at expanding the city limits or sphere of influence. There was also praise for the mixed use designation, participants liked the concept of a denser mixed-use residential commercial core to replace your current downtown or to help augment and develop your existing downtown. There was also a call for improved pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure. And then again, really while there was this desire to support for growth, there was this call to balance that growth with the resources. Specifically, water was brought up as a concern multiple times during that meeting. During that meeting and also following the planning, I'll back up. Following the workshop, we had a planning commission meeting on February 11th, where we presented those findings from the workshop, the general feedback of the alternatives to essentially solicit an initial recommendation from the planning commission that they would forward to you, the city council, for a recommended alternative. What ended up happening at that meeting is there were several community members, property owners that had requested changes to the preferred planning or to the land use alternatives that were analyzed. Some of those requests also including new properties that weren't currently analyzed into our analysis. So what that really required for our team is to go back to the drawing board and analyze the potential annexation of these properties. Planning Commission's direction to city staff was to rerun this model based on the resident feedback and the requests for annexation, or at least the inclusion of some of these properties. In total, there are 22 properties that the Planning Commission asked us to review and bring back in an alternative. 5 of these parcels are outside the existing city limits, but are within the sphere of influence. 18 of these properties are both outside the city limits and outside the sphere of influence. So I'll go over these briefly now. Here, I'll point out green properties are current properties that are under Williamson Act contracts. That is an agricultural, essentially promise to continue agricultural activities on land. Just important context to provide when we're looking at ag properties. But in these white properties that you can kind of see on the screen with the hatched, these are all of the proposed parcels that residents asked be considered for inclusion either into the city limits or the sphere of influence as part of this process. Not something that was initially analyzed when we were running through these alternatives or through these scenarios. A little bit of background information on why this is relevant, why I'm emphasizing city limits and sphere of influence. So LAFCO, it's the Land Agency Formation Commission, is responsible for approving annexations into the city. Land within the current SOI, your sphere of influence, may be annexed, meaning brought into your city limits. However, in order for that to happen, there are a couple of necessary reports and actions. So first, there must be a tax sharing agreement between a jurisdiction and the county. And there must also be something called a municipal services review in order for properties to be brought in to the city limits of really any jurisdiction. Merced LAFCO, the city of Livingston, is no different. Those 5 parcels that I mentioned that are within the sphere of influence but outside the city limits are identified here. They are south. Again, these are not currently within the city limits, but within your existing SOI. If the city council were to proceed forward with the notion that they would like to potentially incorporate these into this general plan, it would require 2 things. These properties would require, 1, the execution of a tax sharing agreement with the county. One does not currently exist. And there may be an update to the municipal services review, potentially. Again, these are properties that are located to the south end of the city. Most of these parcels are adjacent to the city limits, though, making it potentially easier to extend existing utilities and services if this were something that the city council wanted to consider moving forward with in our alternatives process. Here are the APN numbers. These are also documented in the staff report. 18 parcels that fit this other category, which are both outside the city limits and outside your sphere of influence, are identified here, total of 18 of them. If these properties were to be considered as part of this planning process or the city council were interested in potentially annexing or including these properties into your sphere of influence in the future, it would require a couple of things. One, it would require, again, the execution of a new tax sharing agreement with the county. One does not exist. Would require the update and the need for a municipal services review, which would analyze the existing capacity that the services that the city can provide as far as services are concerned. And then would also require, and most importantly, would require approval by Merced LAFCO of the expanded sphere of influence. So even if the city were to decide this evening that it wanted to move forward with this idea of having these properties be included into the sphere of influence or SOI, ultimately they would have, city council would have to work with LAFCO, and LAFCO would have the final say whether or not that would be achievable or they would approve that.
Michael, can I stop you really quickly?
Yes, sir.
The number of properties that are currently outside the SOI but requested to come in, how many of these are included within the Planning Commission's extension of the SOI? Do we have a number on that?
Our approach was to include all 22 properties within and analyze those within the Planning Commission's preferred alternative. So we took into consideration all of the property requests. And here are these properties, again, documented in the staff report. Now, at the May 13th, 2025 Planning Commission meeting, we presented these, in which we had been directed to come back to the Planning Commission with inclusion and analysis of these 22 new properties. May 13th, we went back to the Planning Commission, presented those findings, and the Planning Commission came back with a preference for Alternative 3. And Alternative 3 is the expansion alternative. And they expressed a preference for Alternative 3 with modifications. So what our team did is we started with your Alternative 3, this expansion scenario, which looked at potentially designating properties outside your existing sphere of influence and city limits, analyzing those for potential inclusion. And they built on that. Here's some of the feedback that the Planning Commission gave city staff and the consultant team. So I'll start from right and I'll work left. So as far as the properties down to the southeast, there was this desire to retain and designate as many of these properties as ag and retain that agricultural designation. There was this desire to bring in what we're calling an urban reserve style designation, which is a holding, essentially just a holding placeholder designation in which we're not analyzing really any built infrastructure, but it is showing the city's intent at some point to urbanize or develop or encourage development. There was also a desire to designate a new grouping of properties as a potential specific plan area, meaning if these properties were to be developed at some point in time, it would first require the approval or the development and approval of a specific plan first. There was also a call to increase intensity and density in the downtown area, which we have preserved this mixed use concept that was the Planning Commission liked from Alternative 2. They brought that and folded that into this alternative. And then there were a series of parcels brought into the west that were changed their designation. One was from a commercial reserve to this urban reserve, and then overall analyze some of these properties and bring them into our analysis. And here is essentially the results. So the Planning Commission's preferred alternative really includes 1 through 5, a proposed expansion of the sphere of influence, a future conversion of surrounding agricultural land into urban uses, the creation of a new downtown mixed-use designation, which would encourage residential and non-residential uses in the same building or in the same property. The Planning Commission also recommended that there would be a need for, or I guess acknowledge the need for the tax sharing or revenue agreement and the municipal services review based on their recommendation, understanding that what they were recommending to the council would require further action and further next steps beyond just the recommendation. And our team, we ran the model, we ran the results, and really what this Planning Commission preferred alternative yielded us was the following: an even higher capacity for population and housing growth. Kind of makes sense. We're looking at an expansion alternative and then also looking at increasing density and intensity within the city. And it also has a significant increase in potential jobs. And this is for the council's consideration this evening, the Planning Commission's preferred land use alternative, in which you can now see in this alternative we have the sphere of influence. That blue line is now substantially expanded, really has expanded to what was that 2040 planning area, if we remember that yellow line. We've expanded, analyzed expanding the sphere of influence out to that area. What this has done is this has captured all of those properties that the Planning Commission has asked us to capture and analyze, which is based on their direction and the recommendation that they've forwarded to council this evening. And here's just a lineup comparison of the holding capacity numbers of what they result in. I think what's important to take a look at here is that bottom row, that total land consumed at full build out. As it exists now, you have about 41 acres that are built out within your jurisdiction. An alternative two, that was that infill, more efficient type of land use alternative, developed at around 394 acres at maximum capacity. When we look at these expansion alternatives, that developed and consumed land, of course, goes up dramatically. Because we are looking at now expanding and developing on land that was currently undeveloped or did not have urban developed land uses. Now, as part of this process this evening, and included in the staff report, the city staff did take feedback from the Planning Commission and has included a couple of considerations for the council's commission this evening. I will hand it over to Mr. Galvez to present these slides.
Thank you, Michael. When staff reviewed the land use alternatives, one of the items that staff saw was that the consultants were tasked with facilitating a land use alternative. They were not tasked with providing a recommended land use alternative. So staff is suggesting that through the council's deliberations and the Planning Commission's deliberations, that staff should also be included in preparing a recommended or recommendations to the land use alternatives. Any staff-led changes to any of the preferred land use alternatives would amend the budget, would amend the scope. These items can be presented back to the Planning Commission and come back to the City Council. If we can go on to the next slide. Some of the items that staff would suggest that be considered, oh, not there, sorry. Expanding the sphere of influence to the west of the wastewater treatment plant. As you know, the city owns a property there, particularly there's some area that can potentially be used for a park area. And so we would think it's prudent to include city-owned properties that are currently outside the sphere of influence located to the west as part of the general plan and sphere of influence. Designate the Merced River as a park open space designation, really develop a trail area along that area and then protect the riparian corridor along there. Designate the Gallo properties along B Street as a potential specific plan area. Designate the future ACE train station and future park school sites as public facilities. Add a new business park designation to accommodate job growth and business development sites, really to expand the economic growth and diverse job opportunities within the community. And really to expand the land use, the agricultural land use designation to recognize existing farming operations. We're looking at expanding the sphere, but we can also maintain and recognize the existing agricultural operations that exist and may want to continue to exist. These are some of the things that staff would recommend that be incorporated into the general plan, the land use alternatives. Again, that would require an amendment to the consultant's scope and budget. It would require us to go back to the planning commission or back to the city council. It'll be up to the council's discretion. The next slide. In terms of the next steps, once the land use alternative is selected, it would require additional refinement and final analysis by the land use consultant. They will begin drafting and updating the general plan elements. They will initiate the preparation of the environmental impact report. The EIR is expected to be completed in 2027. The next slide. And as has been talked about, expansion, the sphere of influence and future annexations will require LAFCO approval. As we talked about, preparation of a municipal services review, preparation of a tax sharing agreement between the city and Merced County. At this point, that concludes our recommendation or our presentation. It is appropriate now for the council to conduct a public hearing and study session to consider comments from the community on the land use alternatives and deliberate on a recommended preferred land use alternative from the Planning Commission. The council really can look at a variety of steps. One is adopt the resolution moving forward with the Planning Commission's preferred land use alternative. It can make their own changes and either adopt that or request that that item go back to the Planning Commission and return back to the City Council. So it's really what the City Council's prerogative is at this point. That concludes staff's presentation.
If you could do me a favor, Miguel, before we take questions from the public, Monica, if you can put up just a city map on Google Earth. While she does that, we can talk a little bit about our neighbor to the south in terms of their general plan and what they're looking at, and how far towards Livingston they've designated as soon as she gets it up.
As a little background information, the City of Atwater is also updating their general plan. They're in that process. In speaking to our LAFCO representative, it was made known to us that the Atwater general plan is looking at being expanded. Their study area, not necessarily their sphere of influence or city limits, but their study area would border the Sultana Street alignment. I'll point it out for you. If you can kind of back out or zoom out a little bit and go to the east, to the right, yeah. Yeah, a lot more all the way to Sultana, so that's good. So here's the Sultana Avenue interchange, if I can see it correctly. Here's Sultana Avenue. So our proposed general plan study area is right about here, and the city of Atwater is also going to be abutting that. We're recommending expanding the sphere of influence a little bit this way. Thank you. So really, both the city of Atwater and the city of Livingston general plans would be joined at Sultana Avenue. Initially, the LAFCO representative had mentioned that the sphere of influence would possibly go out to Sultana Avenue, but then he corrected himself and he said, oh no, at this point they're looking at expanding only the land use diagram. At this point, they would reserve that area between Sultana East to their sphere of influence as agriculture. Anyway, I want to provide that background information as the city manager requested.
Thank you.
Thank you, Monica.
All right, so at this time, council, is there any questions? So I will go out for, I will open the public hearing. I will go out for questions and comments. Is there any, in regards to this item? Is there anyone on the phone? Hearing none, coming back into the chamber. Is there anyone in the chamber with any questions in regards to this item? Please step forward. And if you can state your name for the record, please.
Alrighty, good evening, everyone. Council member, the community of Livingston. We're in phase 5. That's amazing. My name is Bao Li. I'm with the California Health Collaborative. I've been working here in the city since 2018, and I do tobacco prevention work with a nonprofit organization called the California Health Collaborative. We're on our 3rd grant term, so we're newly funded in July, and we're on until 2028. And a lot of the work that we do is on tobacco prevention, it's education, tabling, it's our youth coalition leadership support. And then the reason why I'm here is to dive into policy and systems change. And so that's where I come in as a public health expert. I provide the city support with policy, language, and this is something that I'm fairly new with supporting the city with language for their general plans. And so I brought some sample language. We just got this yesterday from our public health lawyers yesterday. So I will pass it around. So we know as a public health advocate that tobacco is growing and it's innovative. Right now we see products that, new vaping devices to now nicotine pouches, and it's not going anywhere anytime soon. And so again, my job is to provide support with policy implementation for the city, and the number one thing is to protect and promote good health for its residents. And so the general plan language, it has languages on the different categories. So land use, safety, zoning, yeah, they exist and they're being implemented in cities throughout the state and country. And so that's pretty much it. And I've been in communication with Miguel, and I just emailed you the copies. So yeah, so if you have any questions for me, yeah, you have access to my email. Jose, you both have access to my email. I'm here. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there any additional questions, comments in regards to this item in the chamber? Please step forward. If you can state your name for the record again.
Gino Cooey again. I'm not sure the city realizes anything about resources and the ag position. I'd like to give you some things. This is from newsletter from Valley Land Alliance. The Merced River highlighted in recent watershed climate studies. Key findings from the completed Merced Flood Mar watershed studies are 600% increase in peak flood flows, 20% increase in average annual groundwater overdraft within the basin, 10% fewer months with depth of groundwater less than 30 feet impacting groundwater-dependent ecosystems, 8% reduction in the end of irrigation season average annual storage in Lake McClure, 7% increase in agricultural water demand from high temperatures. We have climate change, whether you believe in it or not. You know the weather patterns are more extreme. We rely completely on groundwater, from what I understand. The city does, and I'm not sure how many wells we have now. I think there used to be 9, but there is a concern about our resources. And there's talk about, I've heard people talk about, let's just take the fresh water and we'll just clean it up and give it to the city. What fresh water? I think you as a council need to understand better what we have and what we're dealing with before you move on. I'll share this with you, and then I had a few of these made up. I have just one here. I'll leave with you. This is 48 pages. This is the report, San Joaquin Land and Water Strategy. It's by the American Farmland Trust. And just a few comments. Let me. I had someone ask me, well, what's our soil quality here? And if you look at that LAFCO report that was presented, it was given to you, there's a comment that was made by LAFCO. There's a lot of good information in that. And what you're planning to do, if you go with what the Planning Commission recommends, I don't see how they're going to approve. You're not going to be able to get approved from what I could see in that letter that was just presented. We had it for everybody. So that's one of the comment letters. So most of the high-quality agricultural land in the valley is found along Highway 99 corridor, where it's most vulnerable to development. And this is an agronomy area, right? The train came through, and it came. Am I limited? Okay.
It's okay.
I will leave these for you, and there's a lot of good information.
Thank you. To Monica, please. Thank you. Is there any additional comments?
Good evening, Brianne Vandenberg, Executive Director, Merced County Farm Bureau. It's been quite a while since I've been here, so my apologies for that, and welcome back, Mr. Ramirez. It's no secret, back in 2008, 2009, Merced County Farm Bureau was the ones that stopped the city from adopting that current plan. With the plans that you have in front of you, we would still have concerns with that amount of growth. And in fact, that Planning Commission map that was presented, I can't say that would be smart growth in our vision. There would be concerns with LAFCO, as previously mentioned, and with what we see in that letter. Your revenue sharing agreement, as mentioned, still needs to be worked on, and appreciate that you guys are taking that effort to work with the county in making that happen. We would also have concerns as it relates to your fire department. As you mentioned, that is still being worked on. So whatever plan that is adopted, your fire department potentially could be very new. And so ensuring that the safety of your residents, both current and any expansion, would be of concern in servicing all those folks. We would obviously have concerns with water. As cities continue to expand, what does that look like versus what is currently being done on those grounds? And lastly, one of my comments would be, with any of that expansion, where do those grounds fall under for prime or any of other land uses related to agriculture? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any additional comments in the chamber?
My name is Steve Moeller. I'm a farmer out here in the area. A couple things off of your report there. Up in the, what I would call the northeast corner that you've inputted, you are aware of dairies and the sounds they make, and you're aware of different things that are out there. Well, there's LFA, Livingston Farmers Association, has their major shelling plant that runs 4 months out of the year. The light, noise, this type of thing. You've got a chemical company that's up there in the northeast corner also. And I've had friends that have tried to build out in Livingston, have been shut down because there's no water. So I know that the Merced Irrigation District says they own all the water under the ground. They give us 1.1 acre foot of water a year. So I don't know where Livingston's going to get the water for a lot of this that they talk about. As you progress out there, the infrastructure. So truck traffic from these major things, I don't know if you've looked at that at all. There's just so many things out there that sometimes people don't realize until they start living next to it. I use the word dairy. I think next to the freeway, there's a dairy down there. Not only does it smell, I hear the sounds, clanking of the stanchions. You got plenty of space in the city of Livingston for how much it's grown for the last several years. Why not use that to its best capacity? Go up. I know other countries, they have multi-family dwellings, the stuff that goes up 3 stories high. We need to protect our farm ground because it's some of the best in the world. And as you take that away from the area, we're going to import more of our food and that type of thing. So things to consider. I would appreciate you considering those things, but the biggest thing is up in that northeast corner, the activity you're going to put houses and that kind of stuff, because nobody's going to want to get that. As you go in the foothills during the spring, it's nice to buy a piece of property with green foothills, and then you come in July and August, all of a sudden it's dark and brown and that type of thing. When the huller starts up, you've got 4 months of noise, sound, trucking. There's all kinds of things in there. So please take that into consideration as you are looking at expanding your sphere of influence. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there any additional comments in the chamber? Seeing none, closing the comments to this item, bringing it back to the dais. Council, any questions, comments?
I heard all these conversations in the past about preserving ag land and do that. I believe it is important, of course. But also the folks that want to come into the city are also currently farming, and they have made a decision that this is not what they want to do anymore. So do we force people to farm when they don't want to? Or do we let others convert? It's always been a very, very tough situation. I've been on the council for an awful long time, and what I've seen in the past was some of the previous families that owned land said, we want to farm forever. This is our blood and butter, this is our DNA. But as they have transitioned the land or their properties to their kids and so forth, they don't have the same passion for it. They're more like, you know what? Farming's not for me. I'd rather develop things and do my other things. So it becomes a very, very difficult and tough situation to balance the needs of what people that want to farm and also the people that said, we don't. I've had many, many folks over the years said, I hope that you guys do work on the plan, and modestly, don't go crazy on it, but we are very, very interested. So it becomes that, just suppose Livingston says, we're not going to grow. That's it, we're going to go with the alternative one, we're done. But then, why aren't we, some of the folks, also fighting with other cities and says, don't do it? It seems like Merced, have you gone out there to Merced? You see Merced used to be out in the boonies, now it's surrounded by development. I didn't see anybody or the farmers or the Farm Bureau or anybody fight them for it. Atwater's looking to come this way. I don't see them doing it. It just, to me, it seems like maybe we're easy to pick on. I don't know. But to me, we, the 5 here, and we do want to work with farmers, we're not just ignoring them, is to come up with something that meets everybody's needs. There is no way that Livingston or the Valley folks are interested in saying, the Muslim families we have are interested in single-family residential. The ones that might be interested in multi-residential are the ones more like apartments, not homes. Is Livingston ever going to come with skyscrapers? No, not in my lifetime, or anybody's here. So there are things I think we can do. Maybe put a little tighter densities when you go to residential, cut down the lot sizes maybe, instead of 6,000 square foot minimum lots, maybe cut those down, do some of that, and try to preserve much as we can. As far as water use, anybody that moves in here is going to need water, but it doesn't matter. All of our aquifers are the same, one and same. If somebody moves in Merced, they're drawing from the same aquifer. If they're in Atwater, Delhi, they're going to use the same amount of water. And to say that if we get rid of a few acres of land or something, we're going to be importing crops. Well, not everything we do is always, even in the farmer side, I'm always supporting the farmers, and I'm for that. Over the years, farmers have done a great job in cutting down water usage and do that through drip irrigation and that kind of stuff. But we're the same farmers in saying, in a limited areas, maybe we shouldn't plant so much water needing intensive crops. Almonds are one of the most highly required water that needs. So if we have water shortage, why aren't the farmers saying, let's do more of a seasonal thing? I don't see that participation is, we're the farmers, we should be able to get it. Yeah, we want to eat, and everybody understands that you don't go to the supermarket and get food. Somebody has to grow that. We get it. And so, but this council, at least my part, is we need to find some sort of a balance. Nobody is, if we extend the sphere or whatever we do, whatever comes up, city cannot make anybody come in and says, you cannot farm anymore, you have to come to the city. They have to apply for applications, they would have to come, they have to put amendments to, and then annexations into the city. That means that property owner wants to do that. We also do have to preserve and defend the right of the property owners to do what is right with their properties as well. We can't just have person A say, hey, here's what you can do with person B, because if the person B says that, well, they're going to fight for it, well, you know what? It's going to be a really tough decision. And so I'm not sure if I have all the exact answers, but we also have to, city's going to grow, California's going to grow, everybody's going to grow. If we do not put something in here, this is going to go 6 miles to the south, and is Farm Bureau going to go there and say, Atwater, if you do this, we're going to see you in court? No. Did they ever say that to Merced? No. But I understand. But regardless of what may or may not, I feel the 5 of us here need to make a judgment call what we think is best for the community at large. Now, we're not saying that we should ignore the farmers or the Farm Bureau. We would love to have you sit there and say, you know what, we understand your need to grow. Here's what we propose to say, if you do this, no, that's not right either. It needs to be some sort of get-together conversation. I admit, the previous plan was a wrong call for the city. It was. There's no way we were going to be that size, and we learn from our mistakes. This is, in my mind, a lot more conservative plan. It does not impact ag as much. Things along 99, well, we're not reaching too far out into the prime ag land, as it says. There's a lot of land. There's a lot of land if you go up. There's a lot of land all over the place. So I just think that if we can have the land map back up again, alternative 3, please. Thank you. To me, we just heard McGill says that Atwater is looking into extending into, you said Sultana or some sort of, they're looking at it already to the other side of us. But yet, we have to be afraid to even, think about the distance from city of Atwater to Sultana and the distance from the city limits to Sultana. Look at the difference, how tight our space is, and look at them. And I know that nobody's going to oppose them because they're a bigger city and maybe they got more political clout. I think that's wrong. To me, I think, and I've said this for years and years, in my view, along 99 corridor to Sultana, we need to be reasonable in what we designate as commercial and industrial on the one side. Try to utilize that 99 corridor because it cuts down traffic. And some of the industrial most likely is going to be in support of the ag community. We're not looking to develop in the ags, a lot of it is going to be for supporting agricultural communities, and maybe there's a way to ship things out of there. But to me, I think we need to stick along there. And I think every single the line we drew, I believe every property owner or most property owners come in and they said, we want to be in here. We didn't go tell somebody, hey, come in. They're coming to us and says, we want to be here. So I hope that we make the right call. And with all due respect, and thank you very much for coming, I hope that you will understand what we're trying to do as well. Now, if you want to come in, please come up. I don't mind. You are our friends, Farm Bureau. When we were farmers ourselves, we were members of Farm Bureau. We understand the importance of it.
Okay. So no, I'm not going to get in a ticky-tack
No, we're not.
back
We're
and
not.
forth. That's
I'm not
my
asking
game.
that.
I want to be a partner. What I want to say, the reason I brought up the 2008, because I'm not going to shy away from that, right? I was not a part of the organization at that time. I was actually still in college. So way predates me, right? What I will say is you're looking at this as a general plan, and the comments that were made that Farm Bureau doesn't look at anybody else in any other cities of their development, we have. In my last 10 years, we have placed numerous comments on the record for various plans in every single pocket of the city and the county. What I will say is everyone right now, along with Livingston, is going through their general plan updates, including Merced. If I'm not mistaken, Minter and Harnish is a part of that program too.
Yeah.
They've just kicked off, and we will be commenting on that. With Atwater, we would have the same comments for Atwater as to say, hey, you are pinching farmers in this scenario with the way that you guys want to grow, right?
Yeah.
So we are going to be the voice for farmers and ranchers and dairy families within the community. I fully get your comments, Mayor Pro Tem, and we would like to be a working partner within this group.
Yeah, and I guess I still have, and this is my view, and that I think Livingston is always the one that's always gets the brunt of it. However, what we would propose, and it's up to the 4 other folks, is to work with the Farm Bureau and others and say, what other conditions or others we can do to provide more water conservation, to work on other parts of it. We need to grow, and do, but there are other things that can go along with this where the farmers' needs will be met and or try to mitigate some of the expansions and say Farm Bureau. This is our plan. You're looking at 2040. Look how far the road is. But what can we do to partner with you to do the least amount of stripping, least amount of land from the farm, from anybody? Or how can we work with you to lobby or to work with you guys to get more water, whatever it needs. There's other places we can work to help the farmers as well. So that's the kind of collaboration I was going to mention after that we need to work with you folks. We're not saying we're going to ignore you, no. We want to partner with you, but we also hope that you understand this is compared to what it was, this is a very conservative plan, and by all means, I'm calling you up to, that way you're not subject to it, but if you have suggestions on how we can work with the Farm Bureau, not to put our vision in place, and also to what can we do outside of that to work with the Farm Bureau, that's one thing we're also willing to look into as well.
I think we can carve out some of those things. I still would say that my board is going to say this preferred alternative, this option is a large jump. And I understand smart growth. I get it. We understand that cities and the county needs to grow in some formats. This is still a pretty big expansion when you look at the population numbers that are coming out of that report, and the acres that are being impacted with this, right? And I get that you have individuals that want to annex in. All cities have some sort of that. We understand that. The other side of that is this is still a large amount of acres that you're taking in within that SOI and changing that. And so that's what we're looking at.
Yeah, I understand. And one thing, some years ago, I was on LAFCO myself. And at that time, cities were presenting more of a shorter term general plans. And I said, you know what? I wish cities would go for a longer general plans. So not only would the developers and everybody has a better chance of not only looking 5 to 10 years ahead, but look a lot further out. And that's the intent of going to 2040, is to give everybody a broader look at what could be. And understand not every acre is going to get developed. You're looking at, just because it's there doesn't mean it's not being farmed. It's going to be farmed for who knows how long, I'm 64 years, that's 2040, and I don't know, I'm not going to see most of that development, So we have to understand that in order for cities, for us, and Atwater Merced, if we have a broader term plan, by the time we do our traffic studies, do all that, and we have a better idea of what property owners, developers, everybody needs to contribute, so we can work on our water systems and we can provide some sort of conservation plans, because all that stuff takes a long time. By the time you develop a traffic plan, it takes longer to develop than it expires almost, and you're constantly doing that. But if you have a broader map, you can plan better. I think it works a lot better than a bunch of little pieces. You want to have a broader plan, and that's what I'm looking for. And we'd be more than happy to sit with you and say, here's what it is. What is your idea? Other than say no growth, or because your answer to it is alternative A, no growth. No. There are people out there like, and I don't want to say the names, but we've seen them before.
Sure.
They come up, their idea is, hey, no growth. People don't need to. They can stand on each other's shoulders, and who needs homes? There are people out there, I don't think you're that, there are people that are like that. Others are, we know that. And I don't believe in, hey, no growth. It's going to happen. We just need to be better planned for it. And if you remember, I'm not sure how long you've been there, but we had people that were fighting not to have UC Merced come in. You remember that?
I was far too young for that, but yes, I've heard the stories, yes.
Yeah, we've had them come over
Mayor
and
Pro
say,
Tem.
hey, you know what, don't do this, okay?
If If I can just 1 second, just give me 1 second. If I can, because we're allowing multiple times commenting.
Yeah, I'm
so
asking
just-
questions.
No, but if I can just be clear and transparent, if we allow someone to come back, we have to allow, but what I would prefer is for you to ask all the questions and then for you,
Perfect. Okay, we'll do-
or for anyone to be able to respond, and then within those 3 minutes, because it's going to be very difficult for me to allow everybody else to speak for more than 3 minutes, and I have to do the same thing for what I do for one, I do for all.
Mayor, I 100% agree with you, and I do not disagree with that. I only wanted to mainly correct the piece about Farm Bureau and our comments everywhere else. The only thing I was going to say is we have an open door policy. Anytime any of you want to sit down with my team, my board, and myself, I'm happy to do that. I will leave my business card. You won't hear from me again tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So if you can go ahead and finish that. And then
Yeah, I
can
will
go back
finish
up.
that.
Thank you.
But, to me, maybe it just triggered think from the past is we're still discussing and we're not happy with this. And I'm thinking, well, they looking to do legal actions. And to me, that's a concern already. Hey, we're not even done there yet. And you're already threatening or you're talking legal. And I don't like that. That was my concern. So, but to me, looking at it, can minor adjustments be made? I think so. But to me, I think I've been talking about the general plan forever and ever and ever. And I think this is very conservative, and then we need to consider it. Thank you very much.
So at this time, I would like to go out again and provide the same opportunity for anybody else that wants to provide additional comments or questions. So is there anyone on the phone? Hearing none, coming back to the chamber. Is there anybody else in the chamber that wants to provide additional comments? If you can please step forward. State your name for the record.
Hello, my name is Dick Templeton, and I'm here for a reason for one of the things you talked about. I have a generational farmer that has property over on Peach, and it's right across from all the housing, across from the high school, and going toward Dwight. There's about 68 acres, and there's another parcel that's adjoining that from another owner. And, it's a situation where the generations as we go through, I deal with agricultural properties and have done for 25 years. And so I see it all the time where you have generational families trying to pass it down. A lot of times the families do not want to take it on and continue farming. And so if you have property, and right now we're looking at one of them that's located over here on, let's see, you had it on one of the maps here. It looks like 12511 and 12377, 12133, and they're just right across from the housing before you get to Dwight. And we'd like to bring that in as a development property for homes. And I think the property location is right, and I think there's a good reason for the person selling it. We'd like to do that, so just wanted to bring your attention. It's right here. Oh, okay. These are right in there, right across from all this housing. Here's the high school, here's the ballpark. This is already in the city limits, and these are the properties we're talking about. Here's Dwight, so these are the properties we're looking at right now. And so they're in an area where you have good growth potential. You've got utilities, you've got everything else going right there, and right surrounding the high school. So I feel it's a very positive property for that type of usage. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there any additional comments in the chamber at this time?
I didn't want to sound like I was totally in farming, but I was concerned with LFA, and when you start trying to put part of the city limits or the city right south of something that's a major plant doing 31 million pounds of almonds a year, that is just in a major expansion, this type of thing, people move in, all of a sudden they start complaining. They don't realize that all these sounds and noises and different things go on. So that was my primary concern, not necessarily being against farming, or for farming, against city development. But like this one Mr. Templeton just explained, some of these places are good places to expand, to have homes, this type of thing. But what are you going to do if you try to put homes south of that area? I think of Mid-Valley Ag. You know, they do a lot of chemical blending, different things. I'm not here to speak for them, but I'm saying you have those kind of wind fallout, you're south of it. So what does this do to affect it? So I'm just trying to make sure we're aware of some of the other things that are there. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any additional comments in the chamber? Seeing none, bringing it back to the dais, closing
One more comment?
Closing the second round of citizen comments at 9:34. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Just to show our commitment for the farmers, when Livingston Farm Association moved to its current location, we worked with them to provide them water from Livingston, from the city. It shows we do not ignore our farmers. We do support them. We just need to find some sort of let's work together to get along to work together. We just need to work on something like that. Thank you.
So I have some comments and then a question. So let me start with the question. Scenario, let's say that council decides to go with number 3. And just for educational purposes, what would happen if there's no tax sharing agreement in the near future with the County of Merced?
If you were to move forward with the Planning Commission's preferred alternative and a tax sharing agreement were not to be reached, that would be a prerequisite to expand your sphere of influence or annex properties. So your plan would say one thing, LAFCO wouldn't allow it to move forward. So there would be a discrepancy there.
And so what would happen to the whole entire process?
Your entire process would still stand. Your analyses, the holding capacity would still be valid. However, what you are showing as your jurisdictional limits or your sphere of influence would not match up with what LAFCO is officially approving as your sphere or your city limits. I think the city of Reedley is kind of a good example of that. They have kind of 2 spheres of influence. One is the LAFCO sphere of influence. Another one is this city envisioned. It's not official, it's not approved, but it was part of the planning area in which that jurisdiction looked at impacts beyond what the LAFCO approved. For potential in the future, if they wanted to submit an application, they've already done the analysis. That could be an approach.
So just adding a little bit of the timeline, so that way you can get a little better perspective, Mayor. So we still have several more months just in this process that we're going through today before we get to the next step. And the next step, which is the environmental, takes a year. So that's going to take us, let's just say, all of 2026. I don't want to be negotiating I would like to see, hopefully, we come into an agreement with the county, if all possible, at the end of this year, because technically, this is my own perspective. You know, having been here since 2011, and no tax sharing agreement, that's unacceptable. I mean, that's just me as a city manager looking at being in other parts of, managing other cities and other counties. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts, but we need to have a tax sharing agreement. Because it's not fair even to some of our, farmers who are actually right next to the city and they're in their spheres, but they can't, annex, and they have a good project. So going back to timelines, My hope is that, we can find some type of, happy medium between alternative 2 and alternative 3 and look at all these moving parts and have a tax sharing agreement. And why is it important to have tax sharing agreement? Well, number one, we're losing a lot of leakage to basically Stanislaus County. And Livingston can really be can try to be a firewall for that leakage so that, if it refocuses it back into Merced County and, and incorporating a lot of these, great principles. Bottom line, we're a small county. We need each other. All segments of our population, we all need each other in one way or another. So, finding some type of happy medium, and that's our goal. And I want to work with you as we've worked in the past, and try to, work with our county and all our different partners, because I think that there can be an agreement is you get to an agreement where which basically is not everybody gets what they want, but we all get something, and it's something that we can move forward from. So that's kind of the goal here. So that's my recommendation to the council.
And thank you for that. And then just, as I was listening, as I was sitting here tonight, I remember from the 80s, the housing boom of the 80s and 90s. This is the story of two neighboring cities. And both of those neighboring cities were divided by one is in one county, the other one to the north is in a different county. And I do remember that this one CDA, I'm going to call it, I don't want to, put a name to it. I'm sure you guys can figure it out, but CDA, all of the housing proposals and projects were coming to CDA. And then CDA said, we don't want to grow. We like this very small, little, tiny town feeling and blah, blah, blah. And so the developers went and took their projects to City B, to the north, in a different county. And 30, 40 years later, City B, that got all the development and all of the businesses, the grocery stores, are in City B because City A did not want it. Now City A is big time struggling with their infrastructure because they have no money. They have no funding. And they're not doing very well because some of their infrastructure is 80, 90 years old. And now they have water breaks here and there, like every month, because their infrastructure is, I think some of it is made out of wood from 100 years ago. That's how old it is, and now City B, actually CDA doesn't even have, if you want to buy a loaf of bread, you got to go to City B, or you got to drive 30 minutes to the bigger city to buy a loaf of bread. So to my point is, we've been struggling just like a lot of other cities with infrastructure. I think we have done a lot of good work in the last few years, and we're catching up, and we're working parallel with a lot of different projects. A lot of times, most cities want to work on one project at a time, but they can never catch up. In the city of Livingston, we're working on 2 or 3 different projects at the same time. If we're building housing, we're working on water, because, we're working on water to be able to have housing in 5 years or so, So we're working parallelly on 3 different sides to what this city needs, and I think we are heading in the right direction. Do I believe in super large growth? No, I like Livingston, I lived in many areas throughout the Central Valley and in the Bay Area. I really like Livingston, It's kind of like somewhere in the middle. It's not very small, it's not very large, but we're close enough to other other, anywhere we want to go, we're about an hour and a half away. But at the same time, actually this morning, around 10:30, 11 o'clock, I was talking to someone that grew in Livingston. Now they work and live outside of Livingston. And they said, man, it's like those homes in Livingston, they're like $500,000. Who can afford those homes? I'm sure there's people that can afford those homes, $500,000, $600,000, but not most people in Livingston. We've been pushing a lot of our people that used to live and grew up here in Livingston, and 30, 40 years ago, they've been pushed out because they cannot afford to live here. Well, one, there's no homes, and two, or very few homes available for sale, and two, they're out of budget for them, or we have, multiple families living in one home. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's many of us that did that in the past, but what that means is that they cannot afford homes here because, and they want to live here. We want to live here, but we don't have homes available, and the few that we have, they're out of range for most of them. I think that we need to have a good mixture of low income, affordable, and single, nice, bigger family homes. But we got to be able to have a little bit of everything. Yes, there's a concern about water, but I think we have done a really good job in the last few years to be able to have enough water. Do we need more water for additional homes? Yes, but we're already working on that. And I think to some of the previous points, it's if we don't build here, they're going to build them up the street or down the street. And people are going to go, people got to go somewhere. If they don't stay here, they're going to go to, I'm sure they're not going to go to Turlock because they're way too expensive. Delhi, it's getting up there. Atwater, Merced, it's, so where are they going to go? And so it's one of those growth pains. Do I believe in going crazy, all crazy again? No, but I think we got to find a medium somewhere. Somewhere in the middle. Somewhere where it's a smart growth, but we're close enough to another exit, because then otherwise we're creating more traffic. If we try to bundle in to where we're at, away from another exit to the freeway, we're just creating more traffic for everybody else here. So, that's what I mean by smart growth. So we got to look at a lot of different things. I don't want to be the CDA of the 30, 40 years ago, where now CDA wants development, because they know that they realize that not the only way, but one of the ways for them to bring in tax revenue is by having rooftops, property tax, So we got to be able to have a mixture, not just all new building, but maybe we can, encourage, smaller lots or those bigger lots to build, to be able to build an additional ADU or something else, to where, I actually, I'm all in favor of that. I'm okay in a smaller place, a smaller lot. It just takes too much to be able to take care of a larger lot, a bigger home, and stuff like that. So I definitely don't want to be CDA of that story, and this is a true story. And also, I remember that a lot of families and a lot of youth used to drive to CDA to hang in downtown, just bring their cars and hang out in downtown. Now, downtown is dead. If our downtown has some empty spaces, CDA is struggling a lot. But true story. And I think in the past we also lost some opportunities to be able to, The Walmart, it's another example of what happened here, you know? Where did it end up? Atwater, just a few miles down the road, where people, there's people here that sometimes I have to go to Walmart. I mean, I want to buy, simple as wet food for my pets. I either go to Cholak or Atwater. Cost here is it's a little too much when you have a lot of pets, unfortunately, but I got to feed them. But that was another lost opportunity. What happened in the past, just who knows what happened in the past. But do we want to be, do we want to kind of have that same scenario again? And once again, I know it was very difficult that stage when we were having a lot of struggles with water, but I think we figure it out, and we're working parallel with the other projects. So we're not working on this first and then water, and we're working on those projects, but at the same time we're working with the water infrastructure to make sure that we have water, enough water, for the next 5 years or 8 years, and then hopefully. All of you guys are back, and a lot of more people are back to encourage the next councils in the next few years to be able to keep on doing the same work. The problem is when there's nobody here and nobody's telling the council what to do, and sometimes they forget that they got to work on infrastructure, and and hopefully somebody else down the road in 5, 10, 15 years catches on. It's like, oh, we need some infrastructure now. But in order for us to be able to grow, we got to do smart growth. I mean, I agree, we cannot go crazy, but at the same time, we have to look at how much can we grow up to 2040. We're 15 years away. Anything that we build is going to be, or that starts planning, it's, 3 to 5 years to be built. How much can be built in the next 15 years? So, but those were just my comments at this time. Is there any additional comments on the dais?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
On page 231 to 233, talks about we have to have 900 housing units since January 24th till 2031. Would that satisfy option 2 if the council went that way on the black line, or would only the blue line get that? Now that since it started in January 24th, that the state's mandating we have to have 900 units, how many have we had since January to now? And with the 2 new developments that are going in, how many more actual housing units are we required to have by 2031? Does anybody know yet, or if not, can we get that info?
I have the numbers.
Perfect.
The exact number, Mr. Wallace, it's about 1,000 to 1,100. I went over this with the planning team last week that we need as defined by the element that we're working on with MCAG. And then you mentioned option 2. So in the infill alternative, we're projecting an increase of 574 single-family units from baseline and 1,633 multifamily units from baseline, which would more than satisfy that number. So it's my understanding that any option we pick, we will meet our RENA requirement. And staff, please add to that if need be.
You're absolutely correct. As you know, the RENA does require us to provide housing sites. The city staff will be bringing a number of rezone applications and general plan amendments to meet that, independent of the general plan update. And that really is only for a portion of the overall life of the general plan. The general plan goes to 2040, our RENA number goes to 2032. Of that, we have approximately 900 units that we have to provide for, which we're going to be in the process of doing that. So independent, regardless of our alternative 2 or alternative 3, we're going to be able to present to the City Council a strategy for meeting the RENA needs. I do want to take a moment, if I may, real quick, and just to underscore the 2 items. One is the sphere of influence and the general plan boundary. The general plan boundary is really the project study area. The sphere of influence can be less than the general plan boundary, but the general plan boundary has a really important purpose, and that is it serves as the project description for the environmental review. So we're able to provide a comprehensive environmental review for, I'll just say, an ultimate case. Even if you are able to shrink down by doing that work up front, you've saved yourself a lot of effort, time, and money. You're able to capitalize on that. So by being able to really propose a general plan boundary that's larger, and you can have the option of reducing the sphere of influence at a later date, but you won't have the opportunity to come back and do the environmental review if you want to go out beyond the sphere of influence that you selected. Thank you.
Miguel, just to clarify on the point you just made, we can only get that far in terms of an analysis if we keep the SOI that far. So like, let's just say we decided to shrink down the SOI tonight. We still had a boundary that we were analyzing. I think it was the orange line in Michael's presentation. So hypothetically speaking, if we shrunk down the SOI, could we still analyze into the initial boundary that we were just looking at from a broad scale, or would the SOI have to be all the way out there in order for that to be included in our environmental analysis?
As part of our environmental review, we would scope it out to be the whole general plan boundary area. The sphere of influence can be reduced, and our evaluation would be beyond that. But if you shrink the study area, you're kind of shortchanging yourself, and you won't be able to do the evaluation regardless of the sphere of influence boundary if it goes smaller or it doesn't grow at all. So it makes sense to really capitalize on that. There's an old saying that when I was in the school business construction, I was working for Medicine City Schools, and the saying was that, the school district was too poor to build cheap, meaning that they're going to do it right, they want to do it the best they can the first time, not have to do it over and over again. And so it's worth to invest a little bit of expenditure to do a comprehensive evaluation from an environmental perspective, rather than having to go back to the well and try to do it again.
So, just in analyzing, I think personally, my belief in what I, hopefully working with all of our partners and everybody, all of the stakeholders in the community, I think that probably what I'm hearing is that something between number 2 and number 3 might be doable. But one thing that I would like to see is personally, and I think just being strategic in assisting with traffic flow and everything else would be if we can get something between number 2 and number 3, but reaching out to Sultana, because that would be kind of like another way to be able to have traffic flow, because otherwise everything is congested to Winton Parkway and a little bit to Hammett. But we also have to look at not only when we grow to 2040, but 2060, and that's where we're going to be heading eventually, because I'm not sure that we're going to be able to build another exit ramp north of Winton Parkway. That's going to be too costly, and whether that is in 2040 or 2060, we already have that exit. We already have those ramps. And I think it's just adding more to one side, it's just going to just make, as it is, Winton Parkway, it's only a 1-lane overpass, and it's, if you ever get to drive it in the morning, it's bad. It's bad, I'm lucky enough that I drive south and I catch Sultana, but it's that is what I'm thinking right now. Council, I don't know what else, if you have any additional comments, question, ideas.
Mr. Mayor, I agree with you on that comment. And just by listening to everyone in the room tonight, everyone brought up some good points. We don't want to hurt our farmers, but we do have to grow. So the idea of going between alternate 2 or 3, I think that's the best alternative. But we got to put our heads together, and we really got to get this going as soon as we can. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
Probably should have done this an hour and a half ago, but do want to thank our consultants for pushing us this far into the process, being here tonight. Shout out to the staff and the planning team for all the work they've done on this. Really appreciate all the folks that are still out here. I'm sure this is exactly where you wanted to be at 10 p.m. on a Tuesday. But this is, Michael pointed out earlier, this is foundational. Like this is going to set a lot of stuff in motion going forward. So it's really nice to see how many people are engaged in this process. Before I go any further, I would like to know, when we conduct our environmental assessment, will that include an assessment of water sustainability efforts in the region, the impact that this would have on groundwater and water levels in our area, and also the potential impact on ag land? Is that a part of the environmental assessment?
Basically, yes, but it may not be to the level that a formal infrastructure analysis by an engineering firm would provide it. So it would be some level of information, but it's probably not going to be at the level that you could do specific infrastructure planning on.
Makes sense, because we don't know exactly what's coming and exactly how much water usage will be there.
In more general terms, yes.
Right.
Yep.
And the reason why I wanted to ask that, I want to be very transparent to council about where my mind was coming into the meeting and where I'm at right now. I came into the meeting wanting to delay a vote on a map. And the reason why I wanted to do that is because, full transparency, I've had several conversations with some of the folks in the room who have farmland and or are concerned about sustainability efforts in the region. Brianne, have not met you before, would love to sit down at some point, as well as honestly anybody else in the room that wants to comment on this. Our sub-basin is in critical overdraft. I don't have measurables for you. It's something I requested from the folks that I've spoken to. We need measurables before we assess what our impact is. That's why I asked you as well what that might look like, if we could get some measurables on that. But I do think we have to think about, and Mayor, you made this comment too, this isn't just about 2040. There's a piece of this that's just looking long-term, where we want to be able to go. And I don't want anybody in a situation 50 years from now, 40, even if it's 75, 100, like, hey, those idiots back in the past never realized how much water they were going to use when they were planning all this stuff out, and now we don't have water. And yes, that means these conversations also need to happen in Atwater and Merced, whether that comes from us, the folks that are advocating here. I'm not opposed to growth. I do think we need more single-family homes in the city. That is by far the largest demand that I get from residents when they ask about, or when they make comments about what they want from this. However, I just do think whatever this map settles at, I want us to know to the best extent possible, with measurable numbers, the impact that's going to have on water in the region and what water sustainability efforts look like going forward. Council, when we made committee term assignments, a few months after I got in, you guys put me on the board with our local GSA. I reached out to those folks back in March about learning about ground sustainability efforts, what that looks like. Hey, I just got put on your board, like, let's talk. I got one email back in those last 4.5 months about the potential of setting up a meeting, and I have just not been able to get through. So as of now, I'm extremely uneducated on what sustainability looks like. And again, I am open to some level of growth. I do want us to have more single-family homes. Whatever we end up at, whether it's this map, shrunken down, or even a little bit more expanded, I want us to know exactly what that impact is going to look like. And I think we should take some time to really delve into that, because sustainability is a huge deal. As we know, Sigma got passed for a reason. Our restrictions are using water are as stringent as they are for a reason. And however we're going to move, I'm open to different variations. It seems like there's a consensus of kind of landing on some form of hybrid. I just want us to know what that's going to look like. And so if you guys are okay with it, I don't know exactly how long it's going to take. If we're open to maybe tabling this for a month to look into that, even having conversations with our partners in Atwater and Merced to see where their mind's at, like somebody's going to have to think about this at some point. And we can't be in a situation where no city is thinking about this. And again, 50, 75 years from now, hey man, nobody ever thought about this. You know what I mean? And I don't see why we can't be leaders in that, or at least strive to have that conversation. And so I am open to your opinions on that. Let me know what you think about it. But that's kind of where my mind's at right now.
Council, any other comments at this time?
Well, to piggyback on some of the information that Councilmember Upal, what I would recommend to the council is that you direct staff to work with our consulting groups, to reach out and meet with the Farm Bureau and any other, stakeholders, and, basically start those conversations to see what kind of hybrid between 2 and 3 we can come up with. And then at the local level, within the city limits, whether we grow or not grow, I just want to let everybody know that there's a number of different mechanisms that happen locally, and so we issue will serve letters. If there's a number of boxes that are checked, and so if we do not have the capacity to supply potable water for you, regardless of how much water we have in the ground, you will not get a will serve letter, and therefore you can't build your project. So there's a lot of checks and balances that are done. And then when we look at water infrastructure, we look at a number of different things, not just groundwater, but we also are looking at, and this I just want to, for those who might have forgotten, Kenny Jinks Consultant back in 2012 did a feasibility study for us, and we looked at surface water treatment, and so that is part of our North Star. That is something that we've been working on, and as a matter of fact, right now we're partnering up with Atwater to do a technical study to actually evaluate and look at a regional surface water treatment plant. Okay, that's important because a city that has a hybrid system is going to be better positioned for a lot of things, and smart growth. I know that's something that a lot of folks throw out. But it involves so many different aspects. And so for us, if we don't want to be a bedroom community, we have to have basically a balanced approach to light industrial, commercial, low, moderate, and above moderate housing. Because when any of those things are out of balance, it creates a number of different problems for us. Because if all we have is housing, that really doesn't generate a lot of tax revenue for us. Okay, so we're taking a strategic approach to, growing, being sustainable, making sure that there's diversification. We don't want to be, just the petrol capital and everybody come and fuel it, because, we have to diversify. So again, would love to see if council's open to us working with their consultants to meet and start having these dialogues and seeing if we can come up with an alternative, a hybrid alternative that we can then present again to the public and the stakeholders so that, we can move this along.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
I think, as Councilman Rupel suggested, that we wait 30 days. I would say that we should then direct staff to work with our consultants and others to see what can be done. And one of the things I know that it is important to preserve, I didn't mean to come off so harsh, but there are things that cities can do, we can put into, and it was thought about at one time that cities, when they have development come in, put some sort of a ag preservation or ag land preservation fee on there. There are things that can be done. We're willing to go there, and some of the ways cities, and we've already been exploring that just for you, Brianna. I mean, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to come off harsh with you either, but city also has been exploring and using our wastewater or untreated water for our landscaping and our parks. So it does help to cut down on water usage as well. And one thing Livingston has done, and we've been very proud of, and it's all part of the records, is since 2013, 2011, we actually use a lot less water per resident than we did back then. So there has been water conservation, even though city grew, but water usage didn't grow in proportions. So things are being done, just like our friends, farmers, wasting water serves no purpose. They don't want to pump extra water. Why pump? It costs money. And for the cities and the residents, pumping extra water costs money. It serves no purpose. So we are open to, and thank you, Rihanna. So, and if Councilmember Upo wants to continue this for 30 days, let the staff work with them. I'm all for that.
I would love to, yeah, just to get some measurables. It's really what I'm looking for. Regardless of what happens, as long as we know to the best extent possible exactly the measurable impact that's going to have on sustainability in the region, we should at least know. Not just water, but also like the country is now a net importer of food. Not sure if you guys are aware of that. And like if the country's going to grow food, a large portion of that's going to come from here. Just stuff we have to think about. And so want to continue the discussions with the folks in the room. And Mr. Mears, appreciate that you're willing to carry that effort forward on the staff side. One other thing, unless council wants to stick on this route for now, that I would like to bring back when this comes back is Miguel had made a number of suggestions, recommendations to amend the plan. They were presented on a slide earlier, and I have some of those in front of me as well, such as incorporating our wastewater treatment plan within this, designating the park open space along the Merced River, specific plan with the focus on mixed-use development for the Gallo project, et cetera. I'm not sure if council wants to take a look at those now, but if we could start incorporating that as we're doing this other work, it may be nice to kind of bring back something a little bit more polished at the same time.
Mr. Mayor, if I may?
Yes, go ahead.
If we could, Miguel, can the whole council get a copy of that so we can all look at it individually, or we can discuss it tonight? It doesn't matter.
It is in the staff report. I can point out the page that it's in if you guys would like.
Which one?
Give me 1 second. If you go to page 290 of the staff report, there's a bold heading that says issues, and then there's 7 recommendations numbered 1 through 7 that planning has.
I do want to remind the council that the staff report was changed, so you guys have the new staff report on the side.
So one recommendation, Councilmember Upal, would be to incorporate those as best we can in whatever the hybrid alternative is with our stakeholders that we're going to do. And because of noticing, we need to give at least, we have to give like an exact date for as part of our council meeting. So either it's if we have enough days, I have to check either the second meeting in September or the first meeting in October.
Okay. And for the record, I made a comment earlier about moving things faster with fire, and now I'm asking to go a little bit slower. Obviously, situations are different with deadlines, and we are already behind in this project in the grand scheme of things. I really want to get this right. You know what I mean? I want to walk out of this feeling very comfortable with where we're at. We have a great understanding of what we're doing, and that foundation is set in place like concrete. And so I appreciate the willingness to consider that a little bit. And then Mr. Ramirez, just let us know what you need on the timescale, the consultants as well, and we'll take it from there.
So that we're not rushing and giving it some time, because we got different schedules and before the holidays get here. Let's shoot for, what's the date on the first week in October? That would be-
October 7th is the
7th.
first Tuesday.
So we'll come back October 7th then.
If I may, I wanted to point out a couple of things. One is that the consultants are not contracted to do some of this work. It would be out of their scope. So if they were to be requested to do an evaluation like a water supply assessment, that would be out of the scope. It would be a budget adjustment, or the city can hire its own civil engineering firm to do that. All that might take time. To incorporate any of the staff recommendations, that would also require a budget adjustment to the consultant's current contract. So I just want to let you know that.
As it pertains to the water issue, can we go to the GSA first? I mean, just haven't been able to get in touch with them. I don't even know who works there, to be honest with you. It's just, it has not been a fun process. But can we start there, potentially reach out to MID, and then if we need to go on the consultant side, take it from that point after? Yeah? Okay.
Just one last comment. I think it was brought up, I mean, we were supposed to have this done by, this is a 20-year plan was supposed to be done, or if not, close to 2020, 2021. We're in 2025. I know that we just kind of picked it up a little while ago, it was kind of dormant for a couple of years, at least. I just want everybody to be mindful of that, especially up here on the dais. I do agree that, obviously I do believe that we try to do it right whenever we do things, but it just definitely, I'm also thinking of the sooner the better, because we just keep on kind of not necessarily putting it on the back burner, but we have the holidays coming in 3 months, and then things happen. Things don't happen for 2 months, and then after New Year's we try to catch up, and and then 6 months go by pretty quick. So I just want everybody up here to be mindful of that as well, and because we it's very easy for us to get delays. Mr. Paul, as you mentioned, you've been trying to get in touch with the GSA since March, and but anyways, that's government, I guess. But Council, is there anything else? So can someone just put it into words again, just to make sure everybody's on the same page and everybody, or at least the majority agrees onto what the next steps are or direction?
So it was, staff will work with stakeholders in the room and potentially our consultants, depending on scope of work adjustment, to create some sort of hybridized model that reflects the input we got tonight and takes into consideration sustainability efforts in the region for water and farmland. And as a part of that, we will be analyzing water sustainability in the region and taking a look at hard measurables on the impact of whatever model we go with on water sustainability in the future.
And incorporating the staff.
That's right.
That's outlined in
The staff recommendations, the 7 recommendations from planning on amending the current map.
And if I could add, it sounds like there was an interest to continue agenda item number 26, the public hearing, to a date certain. That is October 7th, the regular city council meeting.
Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question to clarify. what the city council is looking for in terms of the water sustainability issue. Are you looking for a generalized description of water availability to Livingston and maybe the surrounding area? That's what you would get out of the sustainable groundwater management plan. Or are we looking for more specific service-related issues in terms of, for the city of Livingston, in terms of infrastructure that you would need to service a particular growth, like additional wells, additional main lines, that kind of infrastructure, and along with the water availability? Is there enough water to supply that? And or is that just the issue, or do you want to also know what's the infrastructure requirements?
Number one.
My personal request was largely focused on what water sustainability looks like in the region. So if we decide to expand, what is the best estimate of a measurable that we can get on the amount of water that we're going to draft out of the sub-basin and the impact that's going to have over time? It was my understanding that the second piece of that would come with the master plan piece of this after we select a map. And so unless council wants to do that now, I'm okay with waiting on that until we have a map set in place, but.
Yeah, we don't have the funding for that right now.
Right, okay. So the first piece of that, if that's okay.
Great. Thank you.
And then one last question. And then again, I don't know if this is the right timing to be able to include or implement comprehensive tobacco control policies in the general plan for council to consider, or is that something that needs to be done totally separate later?
Probably later. I mean, we could work on some example policies that are directed to the water supply issue, if that's what you're interested in. But the broader issue of broad range of policies that deal with water and streets and housing and those kinds of things, that would be premature to try to come up with too much detail on that.
All right, sounds good. Thank you. All right, I think that's it. All right, well, thank you so much, and we're moving on.
Jim, you
Okay,
didn't have to
so-
wait for me.
I was just, yes, I was just going to ask so we need a first and a second?
For the motion.
Okay, so can you make that into, or you want to make that?
I should have written everything down as we were talking about it, but I'll do my best. So I will motion to direct staff to work with relevant stakeholders to create a hybridized land use alternative between alternatives 2 and 3 that are reflective of the input we received tonight. Would also like to direct staff to work with relevant stakeholders to assess water sustainability efforts in the region, ag sustainability in the region, and the impact that our land use alternatives will have on those efforts moving forward. And I will also include that we continue this public hearing on August 7th, 2025. And there's another piece of, October 7th, sorry, 2025. And there's one more piece of it. I asked that we direct staff to incorporate the 7 recommendations from our planning department into this newly formed land use alternative.
So with all that said, I'm sure all of you guys took notes. Is there a second? Roll call, please.
Roll call, Councilmember Roth.
Yes.
Councilmember Opal.
Yes.
Councilmember Wallace.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Samra. Mayor Moran.
Yes.
Motion passes by a vote of 5-0.
All right, thank you. Next, we have announcements and reports. City council members, announcements and reports. Mr. Wallace?
I just wanted to thank the police department and Parks and Rec. Everybody got all those people out there. I think it was a great turnout tonight. And they had enough raffles and people bought enough tickets. And I'm just happy it went out, and I'm glad the council agreed last meeting that we didn't have to be here at 6, so we could all go down and join and be out and meet the people. Thank them. And that's it.
Thank you. Councilmember Roth?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I only have this Saturday, I went to the True Value 60th anniversary. Got to be a judge for the car show, the city manager and myself. What was the gentleman's name? One? Well, he had a 1928 Ford, don't even know what it was, but it's a green Ford, but it was great. So congratulations to the Friesen family for 60 years, and thanks to the attorney for your donation. So, and thanks to all staff for tonight. Thank you.
Councilmember Paul?
Attended the same two events as Councilmembers Wallace and Roth. I want to thank everybody for putting those events together. Congrats to the Friesen family as well. I did put some items in my bucket, get 20% off on Saturday. That's always fun. Probably spent more time meeting with stakeholders than I have leading up to any other meeting in the last couple of weeks. Really enjoyed that, really appreciated the feedback. Anybody that wants to get in touch after this meeting to talk general plan or anything else, you're more than welcome to reach out.
Mayor Pro Tem? I had a list of 24 items, but I'm just going to stick with one. Now, I just want to say thank you to LPD, for putting out the National Night Out. It had been a while, I think 2 or 3 years since the last one we had. It was nice, and I hope it continues, and thank you everyone for the support. Thank you everyone that attended. I hope you continue to attend meetings, and I promise that we will try to make it as short as possible, but this is one of those important items, so thank you again. Next we have, I was going to go over my 3 weeks vacation, but I'll save that for later. Council direction on future agenda items. Anyone?
Mr. Mayor, I do have one.
Okay. Yes.
I would request that we direct staff to work on projecting the cost of having a full-time engineering capacity and full-time planning capacity at City Hall in comparison to our current contracting costs.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? All right, so next we have, I'm not sure if you guys want to stay, but we have closed session. We're probably going to be out in about an hour and a half or so. So you're more than welcome to stay. If not, good night. Thank you, everyone. And we'll be back. We're going to retire into closed session, and then we'll be back out to report. 10:26.